Today, we have 2 hours of disturbing Dexter lore for you, so sit back, grab popcorn, and let's get started with Detective Zoe Quinn knew Dexter's secret. From the police sketch of Kyle Butler, to the bags at sea, to the murder of Stan Litty, to the framing of LaGuerta, the execution of Oliver Saxon by the end of season 8, I can say with almost absolute certainty that Quinn knew Dexter was the Bay Harbor Butcher. Yet, despite knowing the truth, Quinn did nothing about it, which begs the question, why? In this video, I'm going to prove that Quinn knew Dexter was a serial killer and explain how a combination of fear, self-preservation, and love ultimately kept him from taking any action. In order to answer these questions, first we must unpack who Quinn actually was as a character. Quinn was introduced in season 3 of the show, following his transfer from narcotics to homicide. He appears to be a fairly average cop, one with a long history in battling crime, and he immediately shows an interest in Deb.
Nice watch. Knockoff?
Me? No, real thing only. I sold a kidney to Kenneth. I'll show you the scar sometime.
I'll give you a kidney not to.
However, with the introduction of Yuki Amato, it's almost immediately made clear to us that Quinn is in some way shady, or at the very least, highly questionable. Yuki, Quinn's former partner in narcotics and now an internal affairs officer, appears determined to bring him down. While her motives seem personal and relentless, the exact reasons behind her vendetta remain unclear at first. Yuki targets Officer Deborah Morgan, attempting to manipulate her into becoming an informant against Quinn. She dangles the enticing promise of a detective's badge as a reward for cooperation, while also threatening to withhold if Deborah refuses. Despite the pressure, Deborah stands her ground and refuses to be a rat.
Oh, no, understand me. When I say you have the wrong person, I mean me. These people are more than just badge numbers to me. They're my friends. They're my family.
For much of the season, Yuki remains relentless, persistently harassing Deborah through phone calls, text messages, and unannounced confrontations, as she goes as far as to threatening Deborah's reputation by implying she will expose their private conversations. Deborah eventually tells Quinn about the investigation, leading him to take action to stop Yuki's inquiry. In a final showdown at the station, Yuki reveals her grudge comes from Quinn's indirect involvement in a police officer's death.
The cop's dead because Quinn cut all the wrong corners. I came to you for help to get him out of circulation. You refused. Next dead cop's on you.
Quinn argues that the situation was complicated, but it shows his tendencies to bend the rules when he sees it. It paints him as a cop who operates in gray areas, one who's willing to look the other way. His shady side is developed further in season 4 when Quinn becomes interested in Christine Hill, a determined reporter and the daughter of Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity Killer. Covering the Lisa Bell case, Trinity's first on-screen victim, Christine flirts with Quinn to get information, and Quinn, being the absolute professional that he is, hands over his number. Quinn meets Christine again later and, in another breach of police confidentiality, shares details about the vacation murders, which she quickly uses to publish an article. Him doing this violated the rules and professional boundaries expected of a detective. When Maria reads the article, she tells Quinn to quit the pillow talk, reminding him of the dangers. As expected, Quinn ignores the warnings and continues his relationship with Christine, sharing details about Miami's Metro's biggest cases. During an intimate moment, he reveals key information about the Trinity Killer investigation, including Lundy's theory,
Because Super Agent Lundy has a hunch that the dead woman is connected to this big serial killer case.
The information allowed Christine to stay one step ahead in protecting her father and ultimately contributed to her decision to shoot and kill Agent Lundy and seriously injure Deb. Christine acted to protect her father, the Trinity Killer, but Quinn's carelessness made it easier for her to do so. While he couldn't have known her true identity or her violent intentions, he is still somewhat responsible. Police confidentially exist to stop things like this from happening, but Quinn didn't seem to care. He broke the rules and handed Christine sensitive details, which she exploited by taking violent actions against those close to breaking the case. If Quinn had done his job properly and kept quiet, the Trinity Killer may have been caught earlier and Lundy might still be alive. His behavior once again proved that he was a lousy cop as he prioritized personal pleasure and gratification over his duty to uphold the law. Quinn's irresponsible nature as a cop is epitomized when Dexter catches him stealing from a crime scene, an event that sparked a personal vendetta and leads Quinn to start investigating Dexter. During an investigation, Quinn is tasked with inventorying the victim's belongings, including a safe full of cash. Of course, he doesn't do this. While Dexter, distracted by his own problems, collects evidence nearby, Quinn opens the safe using the victim's birth date as the code. He pockets some of the cash before cataloging the rest. Quinn notices Dexter watching the theft, and for a moment, their eyes meet in tense silence. He quickly pulls himself together, not realizing Dexter doesn't really care.
Don't sweat it, Quinn. I've got much bigger things to worry about.
At this point in the show, Quinn's shady tendencies are impossible to ignore, covering for a drug-addicted officer, leaking sensitive case details to Christine Hill, and pocketing money from a crime scene, all revealing a cop willing to break rules whenever it suits him. This is essential in understanding why Quinn stayed out of Dexter's way. The law didn't flow through his veins like it did for LaGuerta or Dokes. He wasn't the type of person to risk his life in the name of justice. By this point, we are led to see Quinn as a highly street-smart individual with a knack for analyzing dangerous and complex situations. His resourceful shadiness not only reinforces his sharp instincts, but also foreshadows his eventual decision to steer clear of Dexter. Quinn's ability to read people is evident in how he earns Anton's trust and skillfully deflects scrutiny from internal affairs. This intuitive understanding of when to push and when to back off highlights his self-preservation instincts. It also mirrors his later approach to Dexter, but we'll get onto that. At the point where Quinn steals from the crime scene, tensions between the two were already high, as Dexter had messed up a case Quinn was working on by bringing the wrong files to court. But Quinn decided to let it go and try to make friends with Dexter, most likely to neutralize any threat. He begins with casual conversation and later tries to win Dexter over by offering him very expensive tickets to a Dolphins game.
Help me out here, Dexter. I've been going out of my way trying to make things good with you, but no matter what I do, you just throw it back in my face.
You don't need to make things good with me.
Come on. What's it gonna take?
Then I don't care if you're a dirty cop.
But Dexter is not at all interested. Quinn takes the rejection personally, marking a significant turning point in their relationship, as Quinn starts to view Dexter with growing distrust and suspicion. You know, when you start disliking someone, you begin to see everything they do in a negative light. Well, that's exactly what happened with Quinn, and for the rest of the season, he became increasingly suspicious of Dexter, finally noticing his strange behavior. The relationship grows increasingly tense and confrontational.
That all you got?
That's all I can tell you.
Dex. Hey, buddy.
Keep walking, not in the mood.
Half day.
This is called lunch, buddy.
Off campus as usual.
On one occasion, when Dexter is chasing a lead on Trinity, Quinn goes off on him, resulting in him being thrown to the floor.
What, when you're done chasing tail?
You do not want to question my loyalty to my family, Quinn, not today. Do your fucking job!
Quinn's suspicions reach a climax when Rita is killed by the Trinity killer. It was already strange that she was targeted, as she did not fit the typical profile of his victims, making her murder an anomaly in his established ritual. Quinn begins to piece this together, noticing the irregularities in Trinity's methods and how they oddly intersect with Dexter's life. Dexter's emotionless reaction to Rita's death doesn't help. While those around Dexter grieve, his flat, detached demeanor stands out, especially for someone who just lost his wife in such a violent and tragic way. In the moments following the discovery, Dexter's shock causes his carefully crafted facade to slip, exposing a callous coldness that doesn't align with the grieving husband he's expected to be. Quinn is the first to notice this.
Midway up her right thigh, dissecting her femoral artery.
Habit of precision.
His wife just died. He's submitting a lab report. Seriously, the next door neighbor, the guy with the, forehead, he was more broken up about Rita than Dexter was.
In Season 5, we see a drastic change in Quinn's character development. He starts to show a deeper interest in Deborah after they sleep together at Dexter and Rita's home, which is wrong in so many ways, but that's a completely different video. Deborah regrets the encounter right away, but Quinn sees potential for a relationship and continues to pursue her over time. As time passes, Deborah begins to warm up to him and eventually reciprocates his feelings. At the same time, Quinn begins to piece a theory together about Rita's murder. Dexter's lack of emotion, his strange behavior during the 911 call, and the fact that Rita's death didn't match Trinity's MO raises red flags for Quinn. He learns that Rita had kissed her neighbor, Elliot, and that Dexter knew about it. Quinn starts to think that Dexter might have killed Rita in a jealous rage, framed Trinity, and staged the crime scene to mimic Trinity's style, given his familiarity with the case. Things escalate when Quinn sees a police sketch of a man connected to Trinity, someone named Kyle Butler. He notices the man in the sketch looks a lot like Dexter, and his curiosity grows when he finds out the person with the same name had been murdered shortly before Rita's death. Determined to get answers, Quinn secretly follows an FBI agent to the safe house where Trinity's family is staying, hoping to confirm his suspicion that Dexter is actually Kyle Butler. However, his investigation takes an unexpected turn when he confronts Trinity's son, Jonah, at the store and tries to show him a photo of Dexter. Before Jonah can respond, Quinn is caught by the FBI and taken away. To shield the department from potential fallout, LaGuerta decides to suspend him. At this point, Quinn doesn't know that Dexter is a serial killer, but he senses something dark about him. While his earlier suspicions were weak and largely fueled by personal bias, this time he had a legitimate reason to doubt the true nature of Dexter. And that's when he gets involved with Litty. Litty, a corrupt narcotics cop caught in a sting operation but later released, is introduced as a morally dubious character. His shady nature resonates with Joey Quinn, and the two connect at a bar where Quinn reveals his interest in investigating Dexter. Although Litty criticizes Quinn for being involved with Deb, he becomes intrigued and agrees to look into Dexter, highlighting how both men were willing to bend the rules when it suits their agenda. Quinn hopes to uncover maybe an affair or a link between Dexter and Rita's death, but he has no idea what he's getting himself into. Litty begins noticing how meticulously Dexter hides his tracks. He points out Dexter's overly clean background and his almost obsessive need for control and secrecy, traits eerily similar to those observed by Sergeant Dokes.
Your boy's squeaky clean on paper. He's only been out of the country once, Paris, pays his bills on time, keeps to himself. I tell you, it's all too neat and a little too phony.
As Litty continues his investigation, he discovers that Lumen Pierce is living in Dexter's old house. To gather more information, he stages a fake car accident involving Lumen. During the encounter, he notices suspicious items in her possession, including rolls of plastic sheeting and garbage bags, tools consistent with the Bay Harbor Butcher's MO. These discoveries deepen Litty's suspicions and push him to pursue the case with even more determination. Litty's investigation takes a darker turn when he stalks Dexter and photographs Dexter and Lumen dumping suspicious bags into the ocean, another stage in the Bay Harbor Butcher's MO. He speculates that the bags might contain drugs or, worse, bodies. By this point, Quinn's enthusiasm for the investigation has waned. He shows no interest in seeing the photos Litty has taken. However, we later see he keeps them in his bedside table. Deborah had recently confronted Quinn about his investigation into Kyle Butler, and his growing feelings for her make him question his motives. He starts to view pursuing Dexter as a risk to his relationship with Deborah, and as a result, Quinn steps back, leaving Litty to continue the investigation alone, unrestrained and increasingly reckless.
Yeah. Consider this your severance package. We're done.
As Litty continues gathering evidence, his obsession escalates. He forges Quinn's signature to obtain police surveillance equipment and sets up hidden cameras in Dexter's apartment, capturing footage of Dexter and Lumen handling knives. Eventually, Litty manages to capture Dexter and trap him in his surveillance van, emboldened by the hope of reviving his career. Using illegally obtained photos and videos as leverage, he attempts to intimidate Dexter, offering to leave Lumen out of it if Dexter confesses to his crimes. Litty plans for Quinn to make the bust for him. However, Litty's growing desperation blinds him to the danger he's facing, clouding his judgment at a critical moment. Litty starts filming Dexter's confession, but things quickly spiral out of control. Despite being tied up, Dexter kicks Litty in the face, knocking him into the van's front seat. Litty grabs a knife and tries to stab Dexter, but Dexter fights back, turning the blade towards Litty. Slowly, the knife sinks into Litty's chest. He tries to resist, but his eyes widen in shock as he grows weaker. Moments later, he dies. Shortly after, Quinn arrives at the location where he believes Litty has Dexter cornered. He finds only an empty surveillance van with no sign of Litty or Dexter. Frustrated and uneasy, Quinn leaves angry voicemails for Litty, demanding answers. He gets none. Just as he leaves, a drop of blood falls on his foot. Litty is pronounced dead, and Quinn, along with Dexter, are called to the crime scene. And I think at this point, Quinn is starting to consider that Dexter was responsible.
What about you? Any theories?
I haven't examined the crime scene.
Wild guess.
Heard Litty was kind of shady. Maybe something came back to bite him.
His response is calm, almost chilling, offering vague statements that conclude with a veiled threat. The thinly veiled warning lands, and Quinn visibly backs off, unnerved. His queasy expression and hesitant reply make it clear he understands the gravity of Dexter's words, and decides to let the matter rest. Quinn here looks visibly scared. Do you think he knew at this point? Comment down below. Upon arriving at the scene, they discovered that Litty, a cop with over 40 years of experience, had been killed with precision, clearly by someone highly skilled. Killed in the same spot Quinn last knew him to be with Dexter. Deborah asks Quinn what's bothering him, and his response shows the dilemma in his mind.
What is it?
I don't know how to say it.
It's unclear whether Quinn avoids confronting Deb about her brother's dark side because he fears the fallout of their relationship and worries about the legal consequences for himself, or is afraid of what Dexter might do if provoked. Most likely, it's a combination of all these factors weighing heavily on him. There's no evidence left behind except for Quinn's incriminating voicemails and the blood on his shoe. Quinn isn't exactly sure how the blood got there, although I'm sure he may have suspected Dexter might have planted it to implicate him. Regardless, it's clear to Quinn that Dexter is involved. At this point, Quinn must have known that Dexter had killed Litty, and I'm sure his next train of thought was that he was the Bay Harbor butcher. The plastic wrapping, the dumping of the bodies at sea were all consistent with the Bay Harbor butcher's MO, and now Litty was dead. I personally find it highly unlikely that Quinn, the highly street-smart cop, wouldn't have pieced it together by this point. Some might argue that it's unlikely that Quinn would suspect Dexter of being the Bay Harbor butcher at this point, but I just find that nearly impossible to believe. The Bay Harbor butcher's case, arguably one of the biggest in Miami's history and involving Miami Metro's own, would have been common knowledge. It's almost certain that Quinn was familiar with the case, making it likely he noticed the similarities between its details and the evidence that Litty had uncovered. So it's not a stretch to say that he made the connection. Quinn is arrested, but stays silent about his connection to Litty. He doesn't want to hurt Deb by accusing Dexter, knows that he'd sound crazy if he did, and is likely scared of what Dexter might do if pushed. In an unexpected turn of events, Quinn is released after Dexter's analysis clears him. Quinn realizes that Dexter lied to exonerate him, all but confirming Dexter's involvement in Litty's murder. Relieved to avoid prison, Quinn even thanks Dexter for saving him, effectively putting an end to any lingering suspicions he may have had.
Thank you.
For what?
The blood work.
Just doing my job.
Yeah, well, that was the one thing hanging me up. There you go.
From this point forward, the dynamic between Dexter and Quinn shifts significantly. While Dexter remains private and guarded, Quinn becomes much less aggressive towards him, treating him with greater respect. He no longer openly criticizes or questions Dexter, signaling a complete change in his attitude and a decision just to back off completely. There could have been several reasons for Quinn's change in behavior. His growing relationship with Deb likely made him hesitant to do anything that might jeopardize it. He may have also felt like he owed Dexter some sort of courtesy after helping clear him. However, on a deeper level, I believe that Quinn's attitude shifted because he was genuinely afraid of Dexter and uncertain about what he might be capable of. Subscribe if you think that Quinn knew at this point. If you're not still convinced that Quinn knew that Dexter was a serial killer, then all we need to do is to fast forward to season 7 when Maria LaGuerta begins to suspect Dexter. After finding a blood slide at the scene of the Travis Marshall murder, LaGuerta begins to suspect that the Bay Harbor butcher is still active and that Dopes was framed. Growing increasingly suspicious of Dexter, she devises a risky plan to catch him. She arranges for Hector Estrada, the man who ordered Dexter's mother's murder, to be released from prison, hoping Dexter's need for vengeance will lead him into her trap. However, Dexter proves just as cunning. He quickly realizes LaGuerta's plan and devises a counter-strategy to discredit and frame her, turning her investigation into both a professional and personal catastrophe. When LaGuerta arrests Dexter for the murder of Hector Estrada, she is confident she has finally exposed the real Bay Harbor butcher. She confronts him publicly in front of her colleagues, presenting what she claims is undeniable evidence: Estrada's wallet and a bloody shirt recovered from Dexter's boat. However, Dexter had already anticipated her move and set the stage to turn the tables. New evidence emerges revealing that the bloody shirt is tied to an old sealed case file and that Dexter's fingerprints are nowhere to be found on the wallet. Instead, LaGuerta's fingerprints are discovered, making her appear as a rogue officer desperate enough to fabricate evidence in an attempt to clear her friend's name.
Are you trying to frame my brother?
Dad.
You son of a bitch. You set me up.
Maria.
By this point, Quinn had witnessed enough to piece together the truth about Dexter. He's seen Dexter dump bodies at sea, eliminate Litty without leaving a trace, and now has seen Dexter completely turn a case against the police captain, even managing to implicate her in the process. This evidence that Quinn has points to the fact that Dexter is someone who knows what he's doing. Then, as if by design, LaGuerta ends up dead. It's hard to believe that Quinn hasn't realized that Dexter is the Bay Harbor butcher, or at the very least, a highly competent killer at this point. Dexter dumping bodies at sea, killing Litty without leaving a trace, flipping the case against LaGuerta and her sudden death, it just pointed more and more to the fact that Dexter was a serial killer. Later on in season 8, when Quinn and Dexter go to stake out Zach Hamilton, a young boy they think is involved in a murder, they strike up a rare conversation.
You dig deep enough on anyone in this department, you know what you find?
What?
This shit. It's there. I mean, we all got it. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. We've all got this shit.
Quinn eventually begins questioning Dexter about why Deb confessed to killing LaGuerta, hinting that he knows more than he's letting on. Though he never states it outright, Quinn indirectly implies through veiled comments and riddles that he's aware Dexter is a serial killer, and that Deb was involved in LaGuerta's death.
I know you know what I'm talking about.
It's absolutely clear that at this point, Quinn has pieced everything together. Later in the episode, when Quinn catches Dexter stalking Zach, this time for his table, not Miami Metro, he acts like what Dexter is doing isn't insanely weird.
Hey, I know what you're doing.
Quinn.
You playing detective? Watching Zach?
Yeah, you caught me.
I'm going to see Jamie. Keep an eye on Zach.
Here, Quinn finds Dexter in his kill clothes, wearing gloves, at nighttime, keeping an eye on Zach. It's almost comedic. Quinn pretends not to notice what Dexter is really doing, but it's obvious he knows. Without saying it directly, he lets Dexter know that he knows what he's doing and has no plans to stop him. A very smart choice. So now you might be asking, why Quinn did nothing about it? Well, imagine what's going on through Quinn's mind. If Dexter is the Bay Harbor Butcher, then he managed to frame Dokes, a highly trained ex-Special Force operative, right under the FBI's nose, take down Trinity, one of the most elusive and dangerous serial killers in US history, kill Litty, a former cop who had the upper hand without leaving a trace of evidence, frame and kill Maria LaGuerta, a police captain, as soon as she started closing in on him, all while keeping up the perfect image of a devoted father, brother, and blood splatter analyst. I mean, can you imagine how terrifying that must have been? Who would Quinn be to stand in Dexter's way? We know Quinn is smart enough to understand that he's completely out of his depth, and his safest option is to keep his distance and avoid interfering. Quinn isn't the type of guy who would feel compelled to turn Dexter in. He's a shady cop with a history of questionable behavior. He's covered for drug-addicted officers, leaked sensitive police information to the press, and even stolen money from crime scenes. And that's not all. In season 7, we also learned that he took bribes from the Koshka Brotherhood while working in narcotics. Do you think turning a blind eye to Dexter's activities to save his own skin would be beyond him? The answer is no. Most cops would pursue Dexter out of a genuine belief in law and justice, but not Quinn. Partly because he's not someone who cares deeply about those ideals, and partly because he's smart enough to know when to back off. And for that, I kind of like him. Quinn's reluctance to pursue Dexter is deeply tied to his love for Deborah. His feelings for her create a significant conflict of interest, as going after Dexter would not only risk the relationship, but also devastate Deb emotionally. When Deb found out that Quinn was investigating a connection between Kyle Butler and Dexter, the relationship almost ended. Quinn, madly in love, did not want a repeat of that. I also think that he didn't pursue Dexter because on some twisted level, he kinda agreed with the Bay Harbor Butcher's principle, killing other killers. In season 7, Quinn becomes involved with Nadia, a dancer at the Foxhole. As their bond grew, Quinn found himself increasingly entangled with the dangerous Koshka Brotherhood. The situation came to a head where George, a violent Koshka member, began using Nadia to manipulate Quinn. George's control over her escalated to physical abuse, culminating in a confrontation where he dragged Nadia into his office, struck her, and dismissed Quinn's warnings. Realizing the threat that George posed to Nadia's life, Quinn acted decisively, shooting George in the chest. To protect Nadia and himself, Quinn staged the scene as self-defense, even having Nadia shoot him in the arms to sell the story. He urged her to flee, knowing the Koshkas would kill her if she stayed. Here, we see Quinn take the life to protect an innocent person, a decision that will align with the principles of the Bay Harbor Butcher. Given Quinn's character and his willingness to operate in moral gray areas, it's not a stretch to imagine that he wouldn't oppose the killing of true monsters in society and thus again turn a blind eye to Dexter's killings. Later, when Dexter kills Oliver Saxon, the surveillance footage reveals a bizarre sequence of events. What starts as a seemingly ordinary conversation escalates quickly. Dexter provokes Saxon to stab him with a pen, and Dexter responds by stabbing him in the neck with a level of precision and efficiency only a seasoned killer could have. His calm demeanor and the way he takes an extra moment to revel in the act before slipping back into character makes the entire thing unsettling to watch. As Batista watches the footage, he's in disbelief. He is in shock that Dexter, the loving father, mild-mannered blood splatter analyst, and trusted friend could be capable of such calculated violence. Quinn, however, is completely calm, partly because he's still grieving Deb's stroke, but also he's not surprised by Dexter's ability to kill, as he already knows what Dexter is capable of. Without hesitation, Quinn steps in and calls the incident clear self-defense, quickly shutting down Batista's doubts.
It's obviously self-defense.
The way Quinn says it comes off almost as sarcastic, as if Dexter's efficiency in taking Saxon's life is no surprise to him. Therefore, it's only plausible to conclude that he knew. And yeah, that's it. In the end, it's clear that Quinn knew Dexter was the Bay Harbor Butcher and a serial killer. Throughout the series, he saw enough to figure it out. Dexter dumping bags at sea, killing Stan Litty, framing both Dokes and LaGuerta, stalking Zach Hamilton, killing Oliver Saxon. Yeah, he most definitely knew. But despite all this, Quinn chose not to act, and his reasons reflect who he was as a person and as a cop. Unlike LaGuerta or Dokes, Quinn was never a cop who cared deeply about justice or upholding the law. He operated in gray areas, often bending or ignoring the rules when it suited him. Quinn was pragmatic, and pursuing someone as dangerous and as skilled as Dexter, a man who has outsmarted the FBI, killed with precision, and framed LaGuerta so convincingly that it ruined her reputation before her death, was simply not worth the risk to him. After LaGuerta's death, it's hard to imagine that Quinn didn't fully realize that Dexter was a serial killer. In fact, it's certain he knew. He saw how Dexter manipulated the case against her, and likely understood that her sudden, suspicious death was not a coincidence. However, Quinn wasn't driven by the same passion for justice as other cops. He was smart enough to know when to stay out of something that could cost him his career or his life. On some level, Quinn may have even agreed with Dexter's principles, having killed George to protect Nadia and staged the scene to cover it up. Quinn likely understood the moral reasoning behind eliminating dangerous people who couldn't be stopped by the law. Ultimately, the main reasons Quinn stayed silent were self-preservation, his lack of commitment to justice, and his love for Deborah. Confronting Dexter would have risked their relationship and caused her immense pain, something Quinn wasn't willing to do, especially after their relationship nearly fell apart when she caught him investigating Dexter. By the time Dexter killed Oliver Saxon, Quinn's reaction made it clear that he had accepted the truth. While Batista was shocked by the footage, Quinn calmly dismissed it as clear self-defense, showing no surprise at Dexter's ability to kill. While he might have agreed with Dexter's actions on some level, it was his pragmatism, his detachment from justice, and his desire to protect his own life and relationships that kept him from acting. Quinn wasn't a hero, nor did he try to be. He was simply someone who knew when to step aside from a fight he couldn't win. Next up, we have every single person Deborah Morgan killed. Deborah Morgan was a virtuous police detective at Miami Metro, yet throughout the 8 seasons of the show, she killed 3 people. And on several other occasions, she tried to kill many others. In this video, I'll be going over every single person Deborah Morgan killed and every single person almost killed. The first time Deb came close to taking a life was in season 2 when she crossed paths with Joey Nunez, a young boy from a dangerous neighborhood. At the time, Deb was a mess, still struggling with the trauma caused by the ice truck killer, which had deeply shaken her identity as a person and a detective. Deb's inner struggles intensified as she investigated Little Chino and the 29th Street Kings gang. While trying to gather information from the public about their whereabouts, she faced uncooperative responses, particularly from Joey Nunez, who proved especially unhelpful. Nunez was a defiant teenager from a tough Miami neighborhood, and as Deb and Miami Metro were investigating yet another crime scene, he mocked them.
She's saying you fucking cops don't do nothing.
Grandma really talks like that?
Not exactly, but you get the point. Right, bitch?
Deb was a bit annoyed, but she let it go, because after all, he was just a kid. However, when she caught him vandalizing her patrol car, her frustration reached the limit. In a high-energy chase, Deb chased after him through the neighborhood and tackled Joey to the ground. The adrenaline of the pursuit, combined with the raw emotional chaos she had been struggling to suppress, resulted in her pulling out her weapon, pressing it to Joey's head, and demanding information about the gang. Joey pleaded for his life. His cocky defiance turned to sheer terror.
No, please. I'll tell you where the shit is. The drugs and shit. Please don't shoot me, miss.
Morgan! Prompting Deb to lower her weapon as she realized what she had almost done. Shaken and visibly upset, she let Joey go, but the damage was already done. Terrified, Joey revealed key information about the gang's drug stash, allowing the operation to move forward, although I'm pretty sure the way it was obtained was illegal. Who knew what Deb might have done if Batista didn't intervene? The incident left a deep impact on everyone involved. For Joey Nunez, it was a terrifying encounter with the raw power of the police system, which often felt harsh and distant. For Deborah, it was a wake-up call that forced her to face how much she was struggling inside. Angel, who had seen it all, later talked to Dexter about what happened, worried about Deborah's state of mind. While Deb didn't kill Joey Nunez, the next person on this list met a brutal end at her hands in the line of duty, 3 seasons later in season 5. Carlos Fuentes, one of the sadistic Santa Muerte killers, was the first person Deborah killed on the show. Alongside his brother Marco, Carlos targeted victims in horrifying ways, often extorting money before brutally murdering them. Their ritualistic killings left victims mutilated and decapitated, their remains often displayed as grotesque warnings to others and a twisted devotion to the Santa Muerte cult. As more and more people were killed, Miami Metro, along with Detective Deborah Morgan, became increasingly involved with the case. During the investigation, Carlos and Marco repeatedly slipped through the police's grasp, operating without fear of consequences. Their ability to evade capture left law enforcement struggling and the public living in fear. In one of Deb's first encounters with them, Carlos had taken a hostage, and she had hesitated to act, fearing that a mistimed shot would cost the hostage their life. That hesitation gave Carlos the opportunity to harm the victim and escape, a moment that weighed heavily on her conscience. Deb vowed that she wouldn't make the same mistake if they were to meet again. A critical lead eventually brought the team to Club Mayan, a local nightclub where the brothers were known to hang out. What began as a tactical stakeout quickly spiraled into chaos. Carlos and Marco, realizing the police were closing in, started firing shots. In the mayhem, Carlos took a female partygoer hostage, holding a gun to her head as he barked threats and taunted the officers. He thought that he could escape the same way that he did before. For Deb, this was a hauntingly familiar scenario. However, this time, she knew exactly what she had to do. As Carlos attempted to use the hostage as a shield, she stood her ground, her weapon trained on him, and she fired a single precise shot, killing Carlos instantly. He crumbled to the dance floor, lifeless, as the hostage scrambled to safety. The scene around her was one of devastation. A nightclub turned into a battleground, but Carlos Fuentes' reign of terror had come to an abrupt end. Following the incident, the emotions were mixed. Carlos's death meant that Santa Muerte killings would finally stop, but taking a life, even in the line of duty, was not easy for Deborah. Her fellow officers praised her quick thinking and shooting skills, and Angel Bautista offered quiet support. For Deborah, it was her first kill as a cop, a significant moment for anyone in law enforcement. But what troubled her the most wasn't that she had killed someone, it was that she felt no remorse for doing it.
Don't tell me you feel bad about killing.
I don't. That's the problem.
You can't really blame her. Carlos was sickening and one of the most brutal killers the show had seen at this point. Do you think that she should have felt something? Comment down below. His death solidified her reputation as a capable and decisive detective, able to handle the intense pressures of the job. However, it also highlighted the darker side of law enforcement, the heavy moral weight of life and death decisions and the lasting scars they leave behind. The next person on this list is a disgruntled former waiter whose vengeful rage turned deadly, and was someone that Deborah Morgan came very close to killing. After being fired from a Cuban restaurant for reasons we're never told, he reacted in the most normal way possible, by arming himself with 2 handguns and a Kevlar vest to go after the manager and the unsuspecting customers. Pretty normal if I do say so myself. On what began as an ordinary evening, Deb and her boyfriend Quinn were off duty and dining at the restaurant. Quinn had excused himself to the restroom so he could rehearse his proposal, but as she waited for his return, the shooter entered the restaurant and without hesitation, he opened fire, killing the manager in the front and horrified diners and turning his weapon on the crowd. Deborah's policing instincts kicked in immediately. She yelled for everyone to take cover and drew her weapon, returning fire. Bullets flew across the room, creating a chaotic, intense atmosphere. Despite landing several shots, Deborah quickly realized that the shooter was wearing Kevlar. Adapting her strategy, she aimed for his legs, forcing him to drop to his knees. As the shooter faltered, Deborah seized the opportunity to tackle him. Quinn, rushing back from the restroom, helped Deborah subdue and arrest the gunman. The incident was captured on a member of the public's cell phone, and it quickly went viral. The footage of Deborah's heroism spread across the media, showcasing her poise under fire. Public praise poured in, and her actions earned her widespread acclaim.
Watch this. She totally decks him.
She flattened that guy. What was Quinn?
She's already got 500,000 hits.
Hey, she's coming.
Yeah, I'm a hero.
Her bravery during the shooting was a pivotal moment in her career, leading to her promotion to lieutenant by Thomas Matthews, cementing her status as a rising star within Miami Metro. While the shooter was quickly incarcerated, the incident had a lasting effect on Deborah. It proved her strength and quick thinking in dangerous situations, showing how well she could handle pressure. It also showed a change in her character, where she might have once hesitated to shoot someone. This time she didn't think twice about using deadly force to protect innocent lives. While the outcome of this incident was largely positive for both Deb and society, the second person she killed brought about devastating consequences for everyone involved. Maria LaGuerta, a seasoned lieutenant whose relentless pursuit of justice inadvertently led her to the darkest truths about Dexter Morgan, and was the second person on this list that Deb killed. LaGuerta, initially a loyal cop within Miami Metro, grew increasingly suspicious of Dexter and Deb as she reinvestigated the Bay Harbor butcher case. Her determination to clear the name of her former colleague, James Dokes, drove her to uncover damning evidence linking Dexter to the killings. LaGuerta's investigation came to a head when she tracked Hector Estrada, the man behind Dexter's mother's murder, to a shipping yard. What she didn't know was that Dexter had set a trap, planning to kill both Estrada and LaGuerta and making it look like they had killed each other. When she arrived, she found Estrada's lifeless body and was ambushed by Dexter, who sedated her and began setting up the scene to implicate her in a deadly altercation with Estrada. Deborah, tipped off by LaGuerta's sudden disappearance, arrived at the shipping yard in time to find her brother preparing to kill LaGuerta. Maria, regaining consciousness, pleaded with Deborah to do the right thing and arrest Dexter.
Do it, Deborah. Shoot him. Do it. Shoot him. This is not who you are. You're a good cop. You're a good person. You're not like him.
In a moment of gut-wrenching tension and pure love, Dexter dropped his weapon and urged Deborah to follow her conscience, telling her to do what was right. Faced with an impossible choice, protect her brother or uphold the law, Deborah made a split-second decision that would haunt her forever. She raised her gun, tears streaming down her face, and shot LaGuerta in the chest, killing her instantly. Overcome with grief, Deborah collapsed beside Maria's body, sobbing uncontrollably as the weight of her actions set in. Shortly after, Deborah and Dexter returned to Angel Batista's New Year Eve's party, blending into the crowd to solidify their alibi. While the world around them celebrated, Deborah's world crumbled underneath the weight of her guilt, and Dexter questioned whether this act marked a new beginning or the beginning of the end for them both. Deb's murder of LaGuerta had a profound impact on her, driving her into a deep spiral of guilt and self-destruction. Unable to cope with the weight of her actions, she quit Miami Metro, distancing herself from the life she once knew. The guilt consumed her, and she became increasingly murderous as she struggled to make sense of her morality. We see this with the third and final person she killed. Javier Guzman, also known as El Sapo, was a dangerous hitman hired to recover stolen jewels and eliminate Andrew Briggs, the thief responsible for the robbery. Deborah Morgan, who had left Miami Metro and become a private investigator, was assigned to investigate Briggs. However, instead of staying professional, she became entangled in an unhealthy relationship with him. This complicated dynamic ultimately brought Deborah into conflict with El Sapo. Guzman followed Deborah to a storage unit where she had found the stolen jewels. Unaware she was being followed, Deborah was caught off guard when Guzman stormed in and overpowered her. He beat her brutally, leaving her bruised and helpless on the ground, but he stopped short of killing her.
You're lucky I don't kill people as I'm paid to.
It's a bit of a plot hole, but that's another story for another time. After stealing the jewels and confiscating her gun, Guzman left Deborah in the storage unit, believing he had neutralized any threat. However, little did he know what the highly traumatized Deb was capable of. Guzman returned to his car, bleeding and wary, to inspect the stolen jewels and tend to his injuries. We find out later that Deborah had retrieved a second weapon and had been stalking Guzman. Fueled by anger and desperation, she had approached his car and fired multiple shots, hitting him twice and killing him instantly before he had any chance to react. After the shooting, Dexter arrived at the crime scene with Miami Metro. He quickly pieced together Deborah's involvement after finding traces of her blood and shattered glass of Guzman's car. To protect her, Dexter manipulated the evidence, shielding her from any legal consequences. This killing marked a turning point in Deborah's story. It was the first time that she had killed purely in cold blood. Her first kill had been to protect society, and her second to protect her brother, both arguably justifiable. But this time, she killed simply because it was convenient. I feel like I say this in almost every video, but it shows again how Dexter corrupts everyone who gets too close to him, whether he means to or not. The event widened the emotional rift between Deborah and Dexter, forcing both of them to confront the fallout of their choices, which brings me on perfectly to the final point of this video. The next incident on this list was one of the darkest chapters in Deborah Morgan's life, her attempt to end both her life and Dexter's by steering his car into a lake. This act was the culmination of months of guilt, anger, and psychological torment following her involvement in covering up Dexter's double life. After killing LaGuerta to protect Dexter, Deborah spiraled into despair, haunted by the choice that she made and the lives it destroyed. She thought therapy with Dr. Evelyn Vogel, but the emotional toll proved to be too great. She remained trapped in a storm of self-loathing and resentment towards the brother that she had always loved, but now blamed for her shattered moral compass and life. One fateful day, during a tense drive with Dexter, the pressure boiled over. After finding out that Harry had taken his own life because of Dexter, unable to reconcile her conflicting emotions, Deborah seized the steering wheel and veered the car off the road, sending it plunging into a nearby lake. As water rushed in and the car began to sink, a nearby fisherman rushed to pull Deborah to safety. Standing on the shore, drenched and gasping for breath, Deborah initially watched as Dexter remained unconscious in the submerged vehicle. In that moment, Deborah felt torn. She wanted to be free of Dexter, but couldn't ignore her instinct to save him. Overwhelmed, she jumped into the lake and pulled him out, saving him from drowning. Following the event, both siblings were left shaken and silent. For Dexter, the act highlighted the devastating impact his life had on Deborah, but more than anything, he was furious.
No, I don't understand. Haven't you heard anything she said? I'm stupid that way, my brain is limited, so when my sister tries to kill me for some reason, it doesn't make sense.
For Deborah, the incident made her face the unbreakable bond that she had with her brother, no matter how much darkness came with it. The impact of this moment was profound. It highlighted the pain that Dexter caused to everyone close to him, but more importantly, it pushed Deb to confront her own trauma. This marked a moment of realization and acceptance, becoming one of the first steps in her path to recovery. At last, we have every single person Dexter killed. Dexter Morgan was one of the most successful serial killers in American history. He killed 149 people, and throughout the 9 seasons of the show, we've seen him kill 69. In this video, I'm going to go through every single person he killed. The first person Dexter killed was Mike Donovan, a seemingly upstanding choir master whose dark secrets made him a target of Dexter's code. By all appearances, Donovan was a loving husband and father who led a choir and played an active role in his community. However, behind this facade, he harbored a horrific secret. He was a pedophile and serial killer responsible for the deaths of at least 3 young boys. His heinous actions left a trail of grief and unanswered questions, and Dexter felt compelled to bring him to justice in his own unique way. After a choir performance, Donovan entered his station wagon, unaware that Dexter was waiting for him in the back seat. Dexter, garrote wire in hand, choked Donovan and ordered him to drive to a remote pump station, the burial site of his victims. In a chilling moment, Dexter forced Donovan to confront the remains of the boys he had killed.
Open your eyes and look at what you did!
Terrified and pleading for his life, Donovan begged for understanding, but Dexter had absolutely zero sympathy. Dexter sedated Donovan with a syringe and prepared his kill room at the pump station. After securing him to the table and taking a blood slide as a trophy, Dexter ended Donovan's life by cutting his neck with a reciprocating saw. Later on, we see Donovan's wife visiting Miami Metro, distraught over her husband's disappearance. Watching her from a distance, Dexter reassured himself that he had been meticulous, leaving no trace of his involvement. The encounter reinforced his belief in the necessity of his code, but it also drew the attention of Detective James Dokes, who questioned Dexter's unsettling interest in the grieving widow. Donovan's death set the stage for the rest of the show. I personally found this scene terrifying when I first watched it. I thought I was about to watch 8 seasons of complete horror. Jaworski, a sadistic parking valet who turned his access to cars and personal information into opportunities for heinous crimes, was the second person Dexter killed. Jaworski presented himself as a harmless valet, but in reality, he was a predator who stalked, raped, and murdered women, recording his acts as snuff films for his twisted website. His guilt was undeniable, with a tattoo on his arm matching one visible in the snuff films. However, due to a legal technicality, a faulty search warrant, Jaworski evaded justice in court, leaving Dexter to step in where the system had failed. On the night of the kill, Jaworski was trespassing on a construction site to steal copper piping when Dexter confronted him. With his signature methodical precision, Dexter showed him a photo of his last victim, Jane Saunders, before sedating him with M99. When Jaworski awoke, he found himself restrained on Dexter's makeshift kill table, and even in the face of death, Jaworski arrogantly admitted to his crimes without remorse.
But I'm not sorry.
Of course not. No, I'm not sorry either.
Dexter, unimpressed, decapitated Jaworski with a cleaver in a swift and merciless execution. Dexter meticulously cleaned up the scene while casually speaking to Rita on the phone, perfectly highlighting the show's central theme, a serial killer leaving a double life. Jaworski's death delivered a grim sense of justice for his victim, solidifying Dexter's role as a vigilante killer. The third person we see him kill is Matt Chambers, a repeat offender whose reckless behavior and refusal to take responsibility had left a trail of devastation behind him. Chambers was no stranger to tragedy. He had been involved in multiple drunk driving incidents, causing the deaths of multiple people. Yet through manipulation and fake remorse, he had escaped justice each time, slipping through the cracks of the legal system. His ability to cry crocodile tears in court disgusted Dexter, who decided to intervene where the law had failed. Dexter tracked Chambers to a bar where, funnily enough, observing him drinking heavily, showing no signs of guilt or restraint. After ensuring his guilt, Dexter followed Chambers to an abandoned liquor store where he ambushed him, sedated him, and wrapped him in plastic. Chambers awoke to find himself strapped to a table, confronted by Dexter's cold, methodical approach to justice. Despite Chambers' attempts at defiance, he didn't even believe it himself.
I didn't do anything. Some people believe that. Problem is, I don't. But it's true. I was set up.
Dexter forced himself to confess before delivering the fatal stab to the chest, ensuring that he would never harm anyone again. As Dexter cleaned up the scene, he reflected on the justice that he had delivered, taking solace in knowing that Chambers' destructive path has finally come to an end. Though the impact of Chambers' removal would go unnoticed by the world at large, for Dexter it was another step in maintaining the balance between chaos and order, ensuring that those who slipped through society's grasp would not evade consequence. In my opinion, I thought that this kill was a bit of a gray area of the code. I mean, I wasn't fully convinced that Matt deserved to die, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Comment down below. In a flashback, the next person Dexter killed was Nurse Mary, a seemingly compassionate caregiver who secretly acted as an angel of death, taking lives under the guise of mercy. Mary worked as a nurse during a time when Dexter's adoptive father, Harry Morgan, was hospitalized for heart disease. She would inject her patients with fatal doses of morphine mixed with unknown drugs, rationalizing her actions as a way of relieving their suffering. Her crimes went unnoticed until Harry realized that he was her next target. Facing the imminent threat to his own life, Harry gave Dexter the green light to intervene, marking Dexter's first human kill. Dexter meticulously prepared a room in Mary's home, covering it in plastic and donning his makeshift kill suit. When Mary arrived, she found herself overpowered and restrained on Dexter's table. Confronting her with the scrapbooks of obituaries she kept as trophies, Dexter forced her to acknowledge the twisted satisfaction she derived from her actions. Despite Mary's protest that she was helping her victims, Dexter coldly echoed her words back to her.
I understand. Now it's time to take away your pain.
What followed was a chaotic, brutal scene as Dexter repeatedly stabbed her, blood spraying across the room as he carried out the kill. Dexter disposed of her remains in the Everglades, leaving no trace of her death. The police never investigated her disappearance or uncovered her crimes, allowing the world to remain oblivious to the justice that Dexter had served. This moment shaped Dexter's careful approach to killing, showing him the importance of planning and control. It also deepened his bond with Harry, whose life was saved because of the kill, highlighting Dexter's role as a protector guided by his code. Number 5 and number 6 on this list were Jorge and Valerie Castillo, wealthy Miami couple, but were ruthless human smugglers. They exploited Cuban immigrants, extorting money and drowning those who couldn't pay. Dexter's investigation to a missing Cuban man made him suspicious of the couple when he discovered dirty mattresses and clothing in a large garage where people had been held captive, leading him to suspect the Castillos were killing their victims. His suspicions were confirmed when he found the bodies of drowning victims in Jorge's boat's fish tank, their deaths masked as tragic accidents. Setting a trap, Dexter lured Jorge to an Airstream trailer in the salvage yard, where photos of their victims lined the walls. After subduing him with M99, Dexter prepared to act, but Valerie's unexpected arrival disrupted his plans. Seeing her cruelty towards the hostages, Dexter realized that she was equally guilty and quickly captured her too. Bound together, the Castillos justified their crimes as necessary for their pursuit of wealth and power. Their twisted bond briefly made Dexter reflect on his own fractured relationships and grapple with his sense of humanity, but their arrogance only strengthened his resolve.
How do you love each other? You're like me. You make it work. How?
He ended their reign of terror swiftly. As Dexter freed the trafficked captives, he remained unaware that a young boy had witnessed the murders. Fortunately, the boy believed that he had seen Jesus, not Dexter. Plot armor, I know, but we move on. Dexter disposed of the bodies in the ocean, believing their crimes had been erased. However, Valerie's body was later recovered and staged by his brother, the ice truck killer, threatening to expose Dexter's methods. To protect his secret, Dexter cleverly framed Jorge for Valerie's death, manipulating evidence to misdirect the police. This partner killing really showed Dexter's expertise as a serial killer, but the fact that he almost got caught demonstrated the dangers of bending the code too. Which brings me on nicely to the next batch of people that Dexter killed. In the 6th episode of the show, in a flashback, we see a series of people Dexter killed in his earlier years. Dexter, worried that his killing tools might have linked him to the Castillo investigation, disposed of everything that could implicate him at sea. Before tossing his blood slide box, he paused and reflected on his early days in a poignant flashback. We learned that he killed Alex Timmons, a Marine sniper who began to kill civilians after he was discharged.
Yes, I did it. Is that what you want to hear?
Gene Marshall, an arsonist who burnt his victims alive.
Have you ever watched someone burn alive?
And Cindy Landon, a black widow who killed her husbands for money.
I'll fuck you if you let me go.
These flashbacks highlighted Dexter's extensive experience as a killer and how long he had been practicing his craft. They also emphasized his ritualistic tendencies as he savored the memory of his victim's death before ultimately disposing of the blood slide box. The 10th person on this list is Emmett Meridian, a seemingly compassionate psychiatrist who manipulated vulnerable women into taking their own lives. Meridian targeted his patients' insecurities and steered them towards suicide, leaving no physical evidence of his role. When his 3rd victim, Vanessa Gale, was found dead, Dexter uncovered the connection and decided to bring him to justice. Posing as a patient under the alias Sean Ellis, Dexter infiltrated Meridian's practice, using their sessions to gather evidence. Discovering the doctor's hidden camera recordings, Dexter confirmed his suspicions. Meridian was a psychological assassin, preying on powerful women under the guise of therapy. Once he had everything he needed, he revealed to Meridian the real reason why he was getting therapy, and sedated him.
I'm gonna tell you something that I've never told anyone before.
Okay.
I'm a serial killer.
Awakening on the table, surrounded by his victims' photographs, Meridian was forced to face the consequences of his actions. Calm, yet resolute, Dexter thanked him for helping him uncover repressed memories of his own past, but reminded the doctor that actions have consequences. As Meridian lay there, wrapped in plastic, Dexter ended Meridian's raid with surgical precision, collecting a blood slide. It's funny how this episode was called Shrink Wrap. Meridian's death not only stopped him from manipulating any more victims, but it also gave Dexter a rare moment of clarity about his own psychological struggles, reinforcing his commitment to the code. Dexter Morgan's confrontation with Brian Moser, his biological brother, and the infamous ice truck killer culminated in a harrowing moral struggle. After Brian abducted Deborah Morgan, Dexter unraveled a twisted web of familial secrets, discovering their shared traumatic past. Brian sought to rekindle their bond by luring Dexter into his murderous ideology, even proposing that they kill Deborah together to sever ties with Dexter's adopted life. Dexter, torn between loyalty to Deborah and the allure of an unfiltered bond with Brian, ultimately chose to protect his sister. After thwarting Brian's attempts to kill Deborah, Dexter set a trap in his apartment, sedating and transporting Brian to his own kill room. There, in a chilling parallel to Brian's modus operandi, Dexter suspended his brother and engaged in an emotional exchange. Brian pleaded for Dexter to embrace his true self, but Dexter, resolute in adhering to Harry's code, rejected the path that Brian offered.
Done more to deserve my knife than anyone.
In a final act of grim necessity, Dexter slit Brian's throat, arranging the scene to resemble a suicide. Left to mourn alone, Dexter grappled with the tragedy of killing the one person who fully understood him, haunted by the memory of the brother who offered him freedom at a devastating cost. I know I'm going to be alone on this one, but I personally didn't like Brian that much, and was actually kind of happy that Dexter chose Deb over him, and I hope that some of you guys agree with me. The next person Dexter killed was one of his most impressive targets. Lil Chino, a key member of the 29th Street Kings, terrorized Miami with his gruesome machete killings and signature teardrop tattoos. Feared by many and seemingly untouchable by the law, Chino embodied terror itself. Dexter's interest in Chino intensified after the gang enforcer murdered Rafael Arenas and orchestrated the killing of Rafael's mother, Ava. Chino's ability to evade justice only strengthened Dexter's determination to stop him. The first confrontation ended in failure when Chino's immense strength allowed him to escape from Dexter's kill table, leaving Dexter shaken and doubting himself. Determined to make things right, Dexter tracked Chino to a garage elevator, where he was about to kill a young informant. This time, Dexter used a tranquilizer gun to subdue him and transported him to a more secure location. Bound and unable to escape, Chino taunted Dexter, asking what he would leave behind. Dexter's reply was perfect.
You kill me. What do you leave behind?
A world without you.
He then drove a machete into Chino's chest, ending his reign of terror. Afterwards, Dexter disposed of Chino's body in the Gulf Stream, leaving no trace. This kill restored Dexter's shaken confidence in his abilities and his code. However, in the long term, Chino's blood slide became part of the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation, linking Dexter to a growing network of victims and increasing the risk to his double life. The next name on this list was Roger Hicks, a smooth-talking car salesman and a compulsive liar with a sinister double life. Beneath his polished facade lay a violent predator who lured young women with charm before brutally raping and murdering them in their homes. Dexter, drawn to Hicks after connecting him to 2 grisly killings, infiltrated the salesman's world under the guise of buying a minivan. Despite Hicks' deceptive wit, Dexter obtained the DNA evidence he needed to confirm Hicks as the killer. When Hicks targeted another woman, Dexter saw no choice but to act swiftly, intercepting him outside the dealership. That night, Hicks awoke on Dexter's kill table in the home of one of his victims, Ann Cohen. At first, he tried to lie his way out of the situation, which was honestly one of the funniest kill scenes of the show.
I'll have them open it up. I'm the manager. They do what I say.
The manager's name is Rick Buxton.
Well, yeah, but I've been there longer than he has.
You've been there 3 months.
At the other lot.
However, his mask soon slipped as he insulted Rita, calling her a vile name, which triggered Dick's deep-seated protective instincts.
You're better off without that cunt.
With a rare surge of emotion, Dexter plunged the knife into Hicks' chest, silencing him for good. The aftermath was clear. The violent predator was gone, and Dexter's connection to Rita had been solidified by the impulse to defend her honor. I'd love to say more about Hicks' impact on Dexter, but he really was just another kill. By the way, also if you're enjoying the video at this point, why not consider subscribing? Ken Olson, the 14th person Dexter killed, was an amateur trying to emulate the Bay Harbor Butcher, but his sloppy attempts at vigilantism angered Dexter more than anything. Olson, a minor criminal with 2 kills to his name, has started targeting victims for personal reasons, using crude methods that barely mimic Dexter's meticulous precision. His latest attempt to murder a petty burglar under the guise of the Butcher's MO had backfired, leaving the intended victim alive to report Olson to the police. After Olson's release due to insufficient evidence, Dexter tracked him to his home. Catching him off guard, Dexter subdued Olson and confronted his shallow motivations. Olson expressed admiration for Dexter, even recognizing him as the real Bay Harbor Butcher, but I don't think he realized what that meant for him.
Why are you so interested in the Bay Harbor Butcher?
Who the fuck are you? Holy shit, you're him, right?
Olson awoke, bound in a makeshift kill room inside of a train car, ironically, the same location where he tried to stage his failed kill. Dexter lectured him on the principles of his code, emphasizing Olson's lack of purpose and skill. With surgical efficiency, Dexter decapitated Olson using a cleaver, leaving his dismembered remains for law enforcement to discover. Olson's death sent a clear warning to would-be imitators. The Bay Harbor Butcher would not tolerate copycats. Long-term, Olson's death reinforced Dexter's sense of control over his identity, while providing a chilling example of what happens when someone tries to imitate the dark passenger's twisted craft. The next person Dexter killed was as personal as it gets. Years earlier, Jimenez, under orders from Hector Estrada, had brutally dismembered Dexter's mother with a chainsaw in a shipping container, leaving a young Dexter and Brian Moser sitting in their mother's blood for 2 days. It made them both killers. Decades later, Jimenez had managed to avoid justice, running a bar in Naples and operating as a low-level drug dealer under the illusion that his horrific crimes were forgotten. Driven by rage, a need for closure, and encouragement from Lila, Dexter tracked Jimenez to his bar, and eventually an isolated cabin in the Everglades. There, Dexter subdued him with M99 and tied him to a table, kind of recreating the very circumstances of his mother's murder. Jimenez's feeble attempts to bargain or intimidate Dexter only fueled the fire of retribution. With poetic justice, Dexter used a chainsaw, the same tool Jimenez had once wielded, to end his life. Jimenez's death marked a turning point for Dexter, as it was the first time he confronted his past directly. However, it also triggered a chain of events, including James Dokes discovering the Bay Harbor Butcher's blood slides, ultimately leading to the unraveling of Dexter's fragile control over his double life. The next person that Dexter killed was arguably the most important kill in the show. Jose Garza was far from just another name in Dexter's meticulous pursuit of justice. His presence posed a direct threat to Dexter's carefully concealed secret. A drug trafficker operating under the alias Christopher Harlow, Garza's connections to the recently eliminated Santos Jimenez brought him dangerously close to discovering Dexter's hidden cabin in the Everglades, where James Dokes was imprisoned. Tensions rose as Garza, desperate to locate his missing cocaine shipment, unknowingly communicated with Dexter via Jimenez's phone. When Garza threatened to visit the cabin, Dexter lured him to a meeting at Jimenez's bar. Though the interaction wasn't shown on screen, the aftermath was chilling. Dexter returned to the cabin with an unconscious Garza, his next victim, and in absolute barbarism, he killed him in front of a horrified Dokes. I mean, hell, even I was shocked that Dexter did this.
You go after killers, you take out killers, I get that, but this is some sick fuck ritual, man. You need help. Let me help you, man.
Don't worry, Sergeant. I won't make you watch. I'm not uncivilized.
Morgan, no! Morgan!
With calculated precision, Dexter used a power saw to dismember Garza, leaving his remains as evidence to frame Dokes as the Bay Harbor Butcher. For Dexter, the kill was a necessary move to maintain control and neutralize the threat of being exposed, but the moral toll on him and the psychological strain on Dokes deepened. Garza's death was a turning point in Dexter's story, solidifying the frame against Dokes while forcing Dexter to grapple with the moral complexities of his code. It underscored the growing cost of maintaining a secret and sets the stage for explosive events that followed. Literally. Juan Rines was another kill in a flashback. After Dokes told Dexter to stay away from him, it reminded him of when his father said the same thing.
Just stay away. Please. Stay away.
The confrontation took place in a secluded spot, set up as a makeshift kill room. Dexter, still learning, methodically executed Rines and dismembered his body, believing it would make Harry proud. But when Harry arrived and saw the aftermath, his reaction was far from supportive. Overwhelmed by the gruesome reality, Harry was shaken to his core, even vomiting at the sight. This moment marked a turning point for both Dexter and Harry. Dexter, confused by Harry's revulsion, began questioning the morality of his actions, even though he was following the code. Harry, burdened by the weight of his decisions, was deeply haunted, ultimately leading to his suicide days later. Rines' death became a symbol of Dexter's dedication to his code, but also revealed cracks in his moral foundation. Harry's disillusionment left a lasting impact, forcing Dexter to confront the truth of what he had become, a mix of justice and human failure. This internal conflict would shape his path and the relationships he built along his dark journey. The Famosa brothers, Esteban and Teo, were drug smugglers who inadvertently found themselves in the crosshairs of Dexter Morgan. On a routine trip to recover cocaine from the Everglades cabin, once belonging to Santos Jimenez, their paths collided with a desperate James Dokes, who had just escaped from Dexter's makeshift prison. Dokes' attempt to gain their assistance backfired when they knocked him unconscious, inadvertently setting the stage for their own demise.
I'm a police sergeant. Miami Metro Homicide. CC, Policia.
I really felt sorry for Dokes here. I mean, he just escaped one of the most dangerous serial killers in Miami, just to get knocked out by the cartel. I mean, I don't know if it was his bad luck or just Dexter's plot armor. Probably the latter. When Dexter returned to the cabin, he discovered the brothers using Dokes to carry the cocaine to their airboat. Realizing the threat they posed to both his captive, but also to his fragile plan, Dexter devised a quick strategy. Using a signal to communicate with Dokes, Dexter crept into the cabin and eliminated Esteban, his death marked by a thudding noise from inside. Armed with Esteban's gun, Dexter emerged in time to coordinate with Dokes, who distracted Teo by throwing cocaine in his face, allowing Dexter to fire a fatal shot. Dexter and Dokes temporarily set aside their animosity to dispose of the bodies in the surrounding waters, ensuring the local alligator population was well fed. But soon, the relationship went back to normal. Dokes in a cage. Now, I'm not really sure if Dexter killing these two broke Harry's code. Those of you who've watched many of my other videos know that I left it out of my video on Harry's code, but I am curious what you guys think. Definitely let me know. This ethical compromise foreshadowed the moral complexities Dexter would face, as the line between necessity and principle continued to blur in his attempt to frame Dokes. The next person on this list is Lila West, a volatile and manipulative woman who once masqueraded as Dexter's Narcotics Anonymous sponsor. What began as an odd but seemingly harmless relationship between them soon escalated into something far more dangerous. Lila, fascinated by the darkness she sensed within Dexter, became obsessed, believing that they were soulmates. Her fixation led her to commit arson, murder, and even target Dexter's loved ones. Lila's most heinous act came when she blew up the cabin holding Sergeant Dokes, killing him and ensuring that Dexter's secret remained safe. Let me be real for a second here, the writers choosing to do this was kind of lazy in my opinion. I feel like we were robbed of so many good potential endings to season 2, but that's a video for another day. After discovering Dexter's true nature and feeling betrayed by his rejection, she abducted Rita's children, Aster and Cody, and locked them in her loft before setting it ablaze. Dexter narrowly rescued them, solidifying Lila's place on his table. When she fled to Paris to escape the chaos, Dexter tracked her down, determined to end her reign of destruction. In the dim light of her Parisian apartment, Lila realized too late that Dexter wasn't there to reconcile. With a single swift thrust to her heart, Dexter ended her life, ensuring that she could never harm another person again. Her death brought closure to a turbulent chapter in Dexter's life, but it also served as a reminder of the chaos that arises when his darkness intertwines with the lives of others. Now, as much as I hated Lila, I couldn't help but feel a bit sorry for her when a tear rolled down her face as she bled out. The next person I have no sympathy for though. Cal Rooney was another person Dexter killed in a flashback, although it's not exactly clear how far back. I mean, there's not much to say on this guy, but he was a carnival worker who used his booth at the fair to gather personal details about patrons. Rooney would then later rob their homes, and on 2 occasions it led to death. We learned this through Dexter talking in riddles to his dentist.
Hope you stayed away from all the sweet stuff.
Well, usually I'm good, but sometimes I indulge.
Moving on to Dexter's 22nd victim, the murder of Oscar Prado was a tragic anomaly in Dexter's meticulously controlled world and central to the plot of Season 3. As the younger brother of Miguel and Ramon Prado, Oscar was a youth center coach with a darker side, grappling with drug addiction. Dexter encountered him while targeting Freebo, a drug dealer that Dexter had marked for elimination. However, the situation spiraled out of control when Dexter interrupted a violent confrontation between Oscar and Freebo at the dealer's house. Freebo fled, leaving Oscar to turn his aggression on Dexter. In a moment of self-defense, Dexter overpowered Oscar, fatally stabbing him with the very knife that Oscar had wielded. The aftermath was particularly jarring for Dexter, who realized that he had broken Harry's code by killing someone without confirming their guilt as a murderer, and it was one of the first times that he had done this.
I've never killed anyone I didn't completely vet before, whose guilt I wasn't absolutely certain of. I did something wholly inside the moment, and wholly outside the code.
I mean, the incident deeply impacted Dexter, prompting him to attend Oscar's wake to learn more about the man that he had accidentally killed. Discovering Oscar's drug use and debts to Freebo gave Dexter some comfort, though it was a rare moment where his confidence wavered. This event foreshadowed Dexter's complicated relationship with the Prado family and hinted at a small but significant crack in his moral code. Fred Bowman, better known as Freebo, was a small-time drug dealer with a sinister track record and the man Dexter actually meant to kill. Known for his role in the deaths of 2 college girls, Freebo evaded justice due to a technicality in a warrant, making him a prime target for Dexter's brand of justice. Dexter's first attempt to kill Freebo took an unexpected turn when he interrupted a fight between Freebo and Oscar Prado, resulting in Oscar's death, but this only intensified his resolve. Tracking Freebo to a hideout, Dexter set the stage for his iconic kill ritual. Freebo, bound to a makeshift kill table, began hyperventilating and panicking, probably like his victims.
And last Sunday you choked the life out of her.
No, Sunday. No, I was getting high with Sherry or Carrie. She's alpha female.
With precise brutality, Dexter ended Freebo's life by stabbing him with the same bayonet that Oscar had used, completing the kill in chilling symmetry. The aftermath saw Miguel Prado catching Dexter red-handed, but shockingly thanking him for avenging his brother. Freebo's death cemented Dexter's uneasy alliance with Miguel and set up a series of events that would deeply intertwine their fates. Nathan Martin was a vile predator hiding behind the guise of a harmless photographer and the 24th person that we see Dexter kill in the show. A convicted sex offender, his fixation on Aster, Dexter's stepdaughter, exposed his true nature. Their first encounter in a grocery store sent Dexter's instincts into overdrive, setting him on a path to uncover Martin's dark past. Despite the code of Harry advising against the kill, Dexter's fury boiled over when he caught Martin photographing Aster at the beach. A confrontation at a cafe only strengthened Dexter's resolve. That night, Dexter broke into Martin's home and found him ogling photos of Aster. He strangled Martin with a garrote.
Nobody hurts my children.
Before disposing of the body, Dexter grabbed a carton of milk for his family, seamlessly slipping back into his role as a father. Though it violated the code, Dexter felt no guilt, viewing Martin's death as necessary to protect his family, and I'm sure that Harry would have approved of it. The next person Dexter killed was Ethan Turner, a man who murdered 2 wives to secure their fortunes. His first wife's death was staged as a painkiller overdose, allowing him to escape justice, while his second wife's death on a cruise in international waters shielded him from prosecution. When Miguel Prado shared the story of Turner's heinous acts, Dexter couldn't ignore the call for justice. Tracking Turner to a cruise ship bound for Bimini, Dexter observed the predator in his element, mingling casually and preying on women. Under the guise of a fellow traveler, Dexter bided his time before making his move. Sneaking into Turner's cabins, he subdued him with a needle of M99 and improvised a rush kill ritual. With no time to savor the moment, Dexter plunged a knife into Turner's chest, killing him instantly.
And here I am, paradox personified, taking life, creating life,
Back on the shore, Turner's disappearance was written off as a tragic mystery, but Miguel Prado began piecing together the truth, suspecting Dexter's dark secret. The kill marked a turning point in Dexter and Miguel's partnership, setting the stage for a volatile alliance and ultimately a dangerous unraveling. Turner's death was swift, but the repercussions lingered, deepening Dexter's moral complexity and ultimately resulting in increased relationship with Miguel. Clemson Gulp, a violent neo-Nazi and murderer, was a stain on society that even prison walls couldn't contain. Convicted for armed robbery, but acquitted of his girlfriend's murder due to witness intimidation, Gulp continued orchestrating killings from his cell, including the brutal slaying of a defector's family. His crimes placed him firmly on Dexter's personal hit list, making him a prime candidate for Dexter's twisted form of justice. With Miguel Prado eager to participate, Dexter saw Gulp as the perfect target to discourage Miguel's involvement by appeasing him and then convicting him to stop. Using Miguel's legal connections, Gulp was transferred to a Miami courthouse under minimal security, where Miguel baited him into escaping. Dexter, posing as an ally, intercepted Gulp and subdued him with M99, transporting him to the very house where Gulp had murdered his girlfriend. On the kill table, Gulp protested his innocence, but Dexter already had absolute proof and was having none of it. He was silenced by a knife plunged into his chest. Dexter meant to share this moment with Miguel, but he didn't want to share the ritual. Gulp's death solidified Miguel's growing fascination with Dexter's methods, escalating their dangerous alliance. And for Dexter, the fact that Miguel helped him set up the kill confirmed to him something exceptional.
Because after tonight, I can honestly say, I know who Miguel Prado really is. My first good friend.
If you're enjoying the video at this point, then consider subscribing, as it really helps out. Now, Camila Fig was one of the few people in Dexter's life who truly knew him, both as a child and as an adult. A longtime family friend and record supervisor at Miami Metro, Camila has supported Dexter in subtle ways, often helping him obtain files on suspected killers. However, her journey with Dexter's took a profoundly personal turn when she was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer in season 3 and left longing for an end to her suffering. As her condition worsened, Camila pleaded with Dexter to help her escape the slow, agonizing death she was enduring. At first, Dexter refused, citing his code, which forbade killing innocents. Yet her pain and despair began to weigh heavily on him, especially after she revealed her knowledge of his past, including the truth about his brother, Brian Moser. Camila reassured him that he wasn't like Brian and that he deserved peace. In a deeply emotional moment, Dexter granted her request. He brought her a slice of authentic key lime pie, laced with euthanizing agents, and fed it to her bite by bite.
You finally brought me the perfect pie.
Her death, a rare act of mercy, profoundly affected Dexter, highlighting the complexity of his humanity amidst his dark instincts. The next person on this list is Miguel Prado, one of the most complex and dangerous figures that Dexter ever crossed paths with. A charismatic assistant district attorney, Miguel initially formed an unlikely friendship with Dexter, drawn by their shared desire for justice. But what started as a relationship based on fake trust quickly turned into a dangerous game of lies and manipulation. Miguel's hunger for power and control led him to break Dexter's strict code by murdering an innocent defense attorney, Ellen Wolf. This act of defiance revealed Miguel's true nature, a man who saw murder as a tool for his personal gain rather than a means of justice. When Miguel turned his sights on Maria LaGuerta, plotting to kill her to cover his tracks, Dexter realized the danger Miguel posed, not only to others, but to his carefully constructed life. Dexter lured Miguel into a trap, subdued him with M99, and confronted him just like with all of his other victims. However, this time it was chillingly personal.
I accept you. I accept you, Dexter, like a brother.
I killed my brother. I killed yours too.
Bound and helpless, Miguel tried to manipulate Dexter with desperate pleas, but Dexter saw through the lies. As Dexter strangled him with a garrote, Miguel was adamant that it wouldn't be the end, but for Miguel, it was, ending a dangerous chapter in Dexter's life. This was another emotional kill for Dexter, as Miguel was one of the first people he considered a friend. But despite this, Dexter chose to kill him, reaffirming his unwavering commitment to the code. The next person on this list is George King, infamously known as the Skinner, a ruthless torturer and serial killer who terrorized Miami with his gruesome methods. King, a former military interrogator, became known for skinning his victims alive to get information. He later used his cruel methods for his own sick pleasure. His violent acts were disguised as a search for respect, but were really driven by his sadistic nature. King's paths crossed with Dexter when he began hunting for Freebo, a drug dealer King believed had wronged him. After Dexter killed Freebo, King intensified his search, leaving skin victims in his wake. Matters escalated when King, manipulated by Miguel Prado, turned his attention to Dexter, abducting him in a chilling attempt to torture and kill him. In the final confrontation at an abandoned warehouse, Dexter revealed the truth. Freebo was dead, and King's hunt was merely a cover for his own bloodlust. Stripped of control, King snapped, but Dexter managed to break free, despite a fractured hand. Their brutal fight culminated in Dexter snapping King's neck, ending his reign of terror. As the police arrived, Dexter staged King's death to appear as suicide, maintaining his cover. Personally, I think that this was one of the most ridiculous scenes in the show. I mean, there's no way that Dexter should have gotten out of this situation, but somehow he did. I guess it's just his plot armor. King's demise closed a bloody chapter and also reaffirmed Dexter's mastery of the shadows, if that makes sense. The next person on this list is Season 4's Benito Benny Gomez, a disgraced former boxer whose violent tendencies extended far beyond the ring. Known for savagely beating his victims to death, Benny's brutality left a trail of disfigured bodies and shattered lives. His acquittal in court due to Dexter's fatigue-induced mistake with evidence became the catalyst for his ultimate fate. Dexter's sense of justice was ignited as he tracked Benny to his dingy trailer park, eventually luring him to a long-abandoned boxing arena. Once Dexter had him subdued, on the kill table, Benny groggily recognized him from court.
I know you. I'm the blood guy.
Dexter's ritual was interrupted by a call from Rita, requiring Dexter to rush home for Harrison's medication. With no time for ceremony, Dexter plunged the blade into Benny's chest, ending his reign of terror. This kill was definitely one of the strangest in the show, because it showed Dexter in a state of desperation to satisfy his dark urges. Watching the amount of pleasure he took from the ritual was both unsettling and also kind of amusing, in a way. After killing Benny Gomez in a rushed ritual, Dexter raced to get Harrison's medication, prioritizing family over his usual care. Exhausted, he fell asleep at the wheel and crashed, waking disoriented and unable to remember where he had hidden Benny's remains. Vulnerable and exposed, he retraced his steps, eventually recalling stashing the body in a punching bag. Relieved, he disposed of it at sea, realizing how his dedication to family was jeopardizing his secret life. The kill of Officer Zoe Krueger, a cunning and lethal killer who used her badge as a shield for her darkest crimes, was one of the best subplots in my personal opinion. After staging a home invasion to cover the murders of her husband and young daughter, Zoe returned to a role as a trusted cop, but her carefully constructed story didn't hold up under scrutiny. Dexter first encountered Zoe through a suspicious blood spatter analysis, which hinted at her involvement. His investigation deepened as he uncovered damning evidence, a fragment of her nitrile glove hidden in her sink. Zoe, sensing Dexter's interest, attempted to intimidate him, even confronting him with her gun. However, this only confirmed what Dexter already knew. Zoe was a predator hiding behind her uniform. Their final confrontation came after Zoe broke into Dexter's home, ready to eliminate the one person she couldn't control, but Dexter had anticipated her every move. After subduing her, he laid out her crimes in her daughter's bedroom, a chilling echo of her own actions. Zoe tried to justify her actions, claiming family life suffocated her, but Dexter saw her for what she was, a monster incapable of remorse.
You're that good?
Or that dead?
You gonna rape and kill me?
What is it with you and rape? No one's raping anyone. Killing, on the other hand.
With a swift thrust, Dexter ended Zoe's life, collecting his trophy and reaffirming his commitment to protecting his own family, no matter the cost. Zoe Krueger's death reminded Dexter of the evil people that can hide behind a normal life, strengthening his commitment to protecting his family and reinforcing his belief in the need for his dark code. The next name on this list is Jonathan Pharaoh, a controversial photographer whose penchant for grotesque and exploitative imagery earned him more enemies than admirers. Pharaoh's work often straddled the line between art and abuse, and when the severed arm of one of his models surfaced, he became a prime suspect in her murder. Dexter, disturbed by Pharaoh's attitude during questioning, decided to shift his focus away from Arthur Mitchell to deal with this so-called artist. Pharaoh's studio became Dexter's hunting ground. Armed with evidence of blood and a fingernail embedded in the wall, Dexter was certain that Pharaoh was guilty. After abducting him from his home, Dexter confronted him in his own studio. Tied to a panel under glaring lights, Pharaoh pleaded his innocence, claiming his disturbing imagery was merely art.
What? I've never killed anyone.
You killed Estrella Carasso. Who knows how many others?
You didn't fucking kill him?
but his words fell on deaf ears, and Dexter delivered justice with a cleaver, decapitating the man and disposing of his remains in the Gulf Stream. The immediate aftermath seemed routine until the next day, when Dexter learned that Pharaoh's assistant was the real killer. This revelation sent shockwaves through Dexter's carefully ordered world. He had killed an innocent man, a moment that shook him to his core and forced him to confront the fallibility of his moral code. The 33rd person Dexter killed was Stan Bodri, a long-haul truck driver with a violent past. Bodri had escaped justice after murdering a prostitute, his case dismissed due to contaminated evidence. When Dexter needed a scapegoat to frame for the Trinity Killer murders, Bodri's violent tendencies and transient lifestyle made him the perfect target. Dexter tracked Bodri using a CB radio, finding him at a truck stop off I-95. Posing as Lil Chopper, Dexter quickly located his prey. He followed Bodri to his truck, where he subdued him with a garrote and prepared a makeshift kill room in the trailer. Enraged and defiant to the end, Bodri hurled threats at Dexter, but again, Dexter really wasn't trying to hear it.
I am gonna fuck you up! I'm gonna rip your heart out!
Yeah, I heard.
With precision, Dexter used a reciprocating saw to end Bodri's life. His remains were dismembered and disposed of in Dexter's usual meticulous fashion. Dexter then planted evidence linking Bodri to Trinity, including Arthur Mitchell's DNA and personal items. When the police discovered the staged clues, Bodri was labeled the prime suspect in the Trinity case. For Dexter, the frame job was a temporary success, but it only escalated the tension in his deadly game with Arthur Mitchell, leading to their fateful showdown, which brings me on to arguably Dexter's biggest kill, Arthur Mitchell. Arthur Mitchell, infamously known as the Trinity Killer, was Dexter's most complex and formidable adversary, a monster hiding behind the mask of a suburban family man and a devout community volunteer. For over 3 decades, Arthur eluded justice, using his meticulous rituals and false piety to conceal his gruesome cycles of murder. Dexter, drawn by the challenge of dismantling a killer who mirrored his own dual life, infiltrated Arthur's world under the alias Kyle Butler, initially aiming to learn from Arthur's ability to maintain a family while indulging in his dark urges. The closer that Dexter got, the more he realized that Arthur's facade was cracking, revealing a controlling and abusive man who terrorized his family. Their deadly game culminated in a tense confrontation. After learning that Arthur discovered his true identity and targeted his family, Dexter tracked him down. While examining Arthur's garage, Dexter recalls the damaged Mustang and checks Arthur's wallet again. Inside, he finds a repair invoice from a local body shop, leading him to where the car is being fixed. Later, Arthur retrieves his Mustang, confident that he's evading justice. Unbeknownst to him, Dexter had tampered with the car, removing the oil cap. As the vehicle breaks down on the road, Arthur's sense of control crumbles. Seizing the opportunity, Dexter ambushes him and transports him to the fallout shelter, setting the stage for their final confrontation. The final confrontation unfolded with chilling precision. Dexter captured Arthur, secured him to his kill table, and surrounded him with reminders of his victims. Arthur, ever defiant, dismissed his atrocities as part of God's plans, even as Dexter pierced through his delusions with a cold, methodical resolve.
You can't control the demon inside of you any more than I could control mine.
The last hammer blow ended Trinity's reign of terror, but it also marked Dexter's darkest hour. After killing Arthur Mitchell, Dexter returned home to a scene of unimaginable horror. Rita lying lifeless in the bathtub, her blood spilling over the edges. The cries of his infant son, Harrison, led him to the bathroom, where he found the boy sitting in a pool of blood, a haunting echo of Dexter's own childhood trauma. Arthur's final act of revenge shattered any sense of victory, leaving Dexter overwhelmed with guilt and grief. In that moment, Dexter was forced to confront the devastating cost of his dark double life and the irreversible damage it had caused, proving that even he could not shield his loved ones from the chaos he so carefully managed. Now at the halfway point, one of the most shocking murders of the show was when Dexter killed Rankin as a way of coping with the devastating trauma of Rita's death. Normally, Dexter relied on the Code of Harry to channel his violent urges into carefully planned actions, but in the wake of Rita's death, his emotions erupted, leaving him untethered and unpredictable. This eruption came to a head at a rundown bait shop where Dexter encountered Rankin, a loud and abrasive man who unknowingly provoked the wrong person. When Rankin antagonized him and walked into the restroom, Dexter, blinded by rage, followed.
My wife died and it was my fault.
Well, I'm real sorry for your fucking loss, but your dead wife can suck my dick.
With no thought or preparation, Dexter brutally killed Rankin with a grappling hook, a raw, unplanned act of violence that bypassed every principle of his code. This impulsive murder revealed the depth of Dexter's emotional turmoil. For the first time, he killed without justification or control, driven solely by pain and anger, even though he supposedly had no emotions. This was a little bit funny to me. Rankin had absolutely no reason to be this horrible. Even though Rankin was technically an innocent, I'm pretty sure that we were meant to feel sorry for Dexter here and have no sympathy for Rankin. I mean, what do you think? One of the most significant kills in the series was when Dexter killed Boyd Fowler, marking the start of his dark pursuit of the Barrel Girl Gang. A dead animal pickup officer by day and a ruthless murderer by night, Boyd was responsible for disposing of the gang's victims. Using barrels of formaldehyde and electric cables, he ended the lives of women who had already endured unspeakable suffering. Dexter first crossed paths with Boyd while investigating a blood trail in a moving truck, which led him to Boyd's swampy dumping ground, where barrels containing human remains were submerged. Dexter lured Boyd into a trap under the guise of job interest, injecting him with M99 to subdue him. After a brief struggle where Boyd managed to tranquilize Dexter, the two wound up in the hospital. Boyd, ever resourceful, escaped first, only to walk into Dexter's hastily improvised kill room at his own home. Strapped to his dining table, Boyd claimed that he was sparing his victims more pain, a justification Dexter silenced with a blade to the heart.
I did him a favor. They were all suffering and I put them out of their misery.
Yeah, you'll be doing one more favor tonight.
This kill itself was routine for Dexter, but the aftermath was anything but. Boyd's final victim, Lumen Pierce, witnessed the murder, leading to an unexpected partnership and a rare romantic connection in Dexter's life, which links directly to the next two kills. Lance Robinson and Dan Mandel's death unfolded in one of Dexter's most chaotic and improvisational nights, blending his ritualistic methods with raw human unpredictability. It began with Lance, a killer who lured gay men into sexual encounters only to murder them. Dexter, under the alias 10 inches of pure steel, arranged a meeting and prepared an RV as a kill room. After incapacitating Lance with M99 and wrapping him in plastic, Dexter was interrupted by a desperate call from Lumen Pierce, who had just shot one of her rapists and needed his help. Dexter hurried to a nearby warehouse where they discovered Dan Mandel, a children's dentist, badly wounded but playing the role of an innocent family man. As Dexter restrained and questioned him, Lumen's resolve faltered, unsure if Dan was truly guilty. However, Dan's arrogance soon betrayed him.
They're gonna find you.
Meanwhile, the M99 wore off and Lance escaped from Dexter's car, still wrapped in plastic. A frantic chase ensued, with Dexter recapturing him just before he could stumble into Deborah and her team. Strangling Lance with plastic wrap, Dexter dragged his body back to the warehouse and staged the scene to look like a murder-suicide, protecting both himself and Lumen. When the police arrived, he had to convince his colleagues that he had simply been the first to discover the crime scene. If you think that Dexter's plot armor was too much sometimes, then be sure to subscribe. This chaotic series of events deepened Dexter's bond with Lumen, as they shared the weight of confronting her trauma. However, it also highlighted the growing strain on Dexter's double life, as risk of his actions threatened to unravel his relationships and sense of control. As the hunt for the Barrel Girl Gang continued in Season 5, the killing of Cole Harmon marked a major turning point in the show. Cole, a dishonorably discharged Marine, served as the head of security for the charismatic yet sinister Jordan Chase. His role extended far beyond professional duties, as he became a sadistic participant in the gang's horrific crimes. Known for his violent tendencies and unwavering loyalty to Jordan, Cole inflicted unimaginable pain on his victims, leaving scars, both physical and emotional. For Dexter, eliminating Cole was not only necessary, but deeply personal, given his connection to Lumen Pierce's torment. The confrontation reached its climax in a Miami hotel room, where Cole recognized Lumen and attempted to silence her for good. As he strangled her in a vicious attack, Dexter returned from Jordan's talk just in time, subduing Cole with a sleeper hold. Strapped to a kill table, Cole refused to cooperate, offering only mockery as Dexter demanded the names of his accomplices, telling him the names of Disney characters.
What did he say?
Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Lumen watched with quiet resolve as Dexter drove the knife into Cole's heart, putting an end to his reign of terror. Dexter handed Lumen Cole's blood slide as a gesture of empowerment. This act marked the deepening of their partnership, with Lumen finally finding justice for her suffering. Meanwhile, Dexter's kills solidified his determination to dismantle the gang, setting the stage for the ultimate confrontation with Jordan Chase, who Lumen ultimately killed. This concludes the chapter of Dexter and Lumen's complex dynamic, and I just want to say that Lumen was an exceptional character and an exceptional actress. I hope that at least some of you will agree with me. The next person who crossed paths with Dexter was Stan Litty, a corrupt ex-narcotics officer who dug too deep into Dexter's secrets and paid the ultimate price. Litty, a disgraced cop desperate to regain his status, was hired by Joey Quinn to investigate Dexter. What began as a casual inquiry quickly escalated into an obsession, with Litty using illegal surveillance equipment to monitor Dexter and Lumen. His determination paid off when he captured incriminating footage, but his arrogance sealed his fate. Litty believed that he could use this evidence to blackmail Dexter into a confession, hoping that it would be his ticket back into the police force. The confrontation came to a head when Litty tased and abducted Dexter, taking him to a secluded van at the docks. With Dexter restrained, Litty taunted him, presenting surveillance footage and demanding a full confession.
And I don't give a shit about you either. I just want my goddamn job in the police force back. I bring in somebody like you, I get my picture in the news and television, everybody thinks I'm a goddamn hero, everybody loves me.
However, underestimating Dexter proved to be fatal. Despite being bound, Dexter managed to kick Litty and wrestled the knife from his hands, driving it into the corrupt cop's chest. Litty's final moments were filled with terror as he realized that the man that he had pursued was far more dangerous than he imagined. Dexter destroyed the evidence and left Litty's body behind, narrowly avoiding suspicion. Litty's demise was a harsh reminder of the consequences of underestimating Dexter Morgan, and those of you who've watched my other videos know why this is so significant. The next two victims on Dexter's list were Ben and Roger, corrupt paramedics who exploited their positions to harvest organs from patients they intentionally let die. Dexter carried out a dual killing to end their gruesome scheme. Posing as an injured man, Dexter lured the pair to a desolate location. When they arrived, ready to exploit what they assumed was another victim, Dexter sprang his trap. Using his signature M99, he swiftly subdued them and dragged them into the ambulance they had misused for their grisly operation. Awakened, restrained, and confronted by Dexter's accusations, the pair attempted to deny their crimes. Dexter, unmoved, turned their own equipment against them, stopping their hearts with the defibrillator that they had used to seal others' fates. The duo's deaths brought justice to their victims and highlighted Dexter's unwavering mission to target those who preyed on the vulnerable. It was also a pretty nice introduction to Season 6. A really interesting kill from this series was Joe Walker, a former high school quarterback whose arrogance and violent tendencies has shaped a troubling past. Joe had once been married to Janet Walker, a kind-hearted woman and a high school acquaintance of Dexter. When Janet was found dead 3 years before their reunion, the case was ruled a suicide, but Dexter, ever the skeptic, suspected foul play. Years later, their high school reunion presented Dexter with the perfect opportunity to confront Joe. Amidst the nostalgia and chatter, Joe's dismissive attitude and lack of remorse for Janet's death set Dexter's blood boiling. Dexter meticulously collected evidence, confirming that Joe had murdered Janet to avoid a costly divorce, solidifying his place on Dexter's table. In a tense confrontation at the groundskeeper's shed, Dexter overpowered Joe, rendering him unconscious. When Joe awoke, strapped to the kill table, Dexter laid bare his sins, including his shallow justifications for Janet's murder.
They do things that they shouldn't do, and they're only human, but God forgives us.
Despite Joe's desperate proclamations of faith, Dexter deemed him irredeemable and delivered a swift, brutal end, bludgeoning him with a sledgehammer before completing his ritual with a stab to the heart. Joe's disappearance caused little stir, but his death marked a profound moment for Dexter as he grappled with the questions of morality, faith, and justice. His execution of Joe was another step deeper into darkness, further blurring the lines between righteousness and vengeance. Also, Trisha Billings. Next on Dexter's list was Julio Benez, a violent gang leader known for making people disappear. As the head of the Locos gang, Julio spread fear and chaos in Miami. He caught Dexter's attention after threatening Brother Sam, a reformed ex-convict who Dexter became friends with. Julio's encounter with Brother Sam at the shop escalated quickly, with Dexter stepping in to neutralize one of Julio's men. Sensing Dexter's authority being in law enforcement, Julio backed off but left a chilling reminder of his power, referencing the disappearance of Hector Nunez, a local barber who dared to defy him. This admission was enough for Dexter to dig deeper, confirming Julio's guilt and sealing his fate. In a grim echo of Julio's own crimes, Dexter lured him to Hector's barbershop, now transformed into a kill room, and subdued him. Trapped and restrained, Julio spewed threats, warning that his gang would avenge him. Dexter silenced him with surgical precision, slashing his throat.
Because monsters don't get to live happily ever after.
Julio's death sent ripples throughout the Locos game, destabilizing their grip on the community. For Dexter, it was another step in his twisted quest for justice, a fairy tale ending for no one. One of the most crazy moments in the show was Dexter's encounter with Walter Kinney, the Tooth Fairy Killer. Walter, once a terrifying serial killer who brutally murdered prostitutes and kept their lateral incisors as trophies, had become a frail, bitter old man living in a Miami retirement village. He resurfaced with a botched murder near his Miami retirement home, which led Dexter to become suspicious of Walter and to start stalking him. At first, Walter was unaware of Dexter's true intentions. Dexter befriended him under the guise of curiosity and kindness, accompanying him on errands and even playing golf together. However, as Dexter pieced together Walter's identity, culminating in the discovery of a box of teeth trophies in his storage unit, Walter grew suspicious. Realizing that Dexter worked for Miami Metro Homicide, Walter confronting him, pulling a gun and demanding answers. The tables turned when Dexter crashed the car, subdued Walter, and secured him in his own recliner. Walter, now aware of Dexter's dark side, mocked him, predicting that he would share the same miserable fate.
All I ever cared about was killing, and I can't even do that right anymore. That's what you've got to look forward to. This is your future, and it includes adult fucking diapers. You are not.
Dexter rejected this future, choosing to smother Walter with a pillow, erasing the killer's legacy, and ensuring Walter died an unremarkable death. Walter's demise served as a grim reminder of Dexter's potential future, forcing him to confront the emptiness of a life defined solely by killing. The next name on this list is Nick, a troubled ex-convict whose fatal decision to betray Brother Sam sealed his fate with Dexter. Nick's paths crossed with Dexter's when Brother Sam, a reformed criminal and spiritual guide, took Nick under his wing, offering him a job and a chance to turn his life around. Despite Sam's unwavering support, Nick's ties to the Locos game and his own weakness ultimately led him back into darkness. When Brother Sam was shot in his garage, Dexter initially suspected the Locos. However, the evidence pointed instead to Nick, whose involvement became undeniable. Confronting Nick at the very beach where he had been baptized, Dexter wrestled with the moral weight of honoring Sam's dying wish, forgiveness. For a moment, it seemed possible, but Nick's arrogance and twisted delight in his betrayal, mocking Sam's faith and sacrifice, made Dexter see red.
They got no proof. Nobody can do anything.
Overwhelmed by rage, Dexter tackled Nick into the waters of Biscayne Bay, drowning him. Once again, Dexter let his emotions take over, abandoning his usual kill ritual and giving in to his darker instincts. This was symbolized by the vision of his brother, Brian Moser, clapping in approval. I was actually quite upset when Sam died. I felt like he was Dexter's first true friend. Nick's death marked a turning point for Dexter, a brutal reminder of how far he had strayed from the light that Sam had urged him to embrace, leaving behind a void that would haunt him long after. The next name on Dexter's list was Norm, a shady motel owner who became the target of Dexter's wrath, marking an unusual departure from his code. Norm operated out of the Shady Lane Motel in Nebraska, where Dexter stayed during his road trip to try and find Jonah. Initially, Norm came off as a nosy but harmless figure, but his greed soon revealed a more dangerous side. Dexter's first encounter with Norm was over a flat tire, but the situation escalated when Norm stole Dexter's tools, including his knives. When confronted, Norm demanded $10,000 for the return of the stolen items, unaware of who Dexter was. The encounter turned deadly when Norm pulled a stolen, unloaded gun on him. Taking advantage of the moment, Dexter impaled Norm with a pitchfork, completely consumed by his dark urges and the imagined influence of Brian Moser. Unable to gain access to the ocean and dispose of the body, Dexter improvised by throwing Norm into a nearby grain silo, watching as the body vanished beneath the corn. Norm's death symbolized Dexter's temporary break from his code, a chilling reminder of how unrestrained and dangerous he could become without structure or a guiding moral compass in his life. Steve Dorsey, one of the most annoying and random villains in the show, was a fervent disciple of the Doomsday Killer. Steve, alongside his equally devoted wife, Beth, became involved in Travis's dark plans through his apocalyptic blog, The Beginning of the End. His blind faith and willingness to kill made him a dangerous accomplice, which resulted in the murder of Holly Benson on a yacht. Steve's devotion reached its peak when Travis tasked him and Beth with proving their commitment by taking part in Holly's gruesome murder. While hesitant at first, Steve ultimately participated, stabbing Holly after Travis slashed her throat. Left alone on the yacht to clean up, Steve donned a hazmat suit to prepare the next step in Travis's twisted plan. It was here that Dexter, believing Steve to be Travis, confronted him. In the tense, chaotic struggle that followed, Dexter stabbed Steve in the chest, realizing too late that he had the wrong man. With his dying breath, Steve warned that the plan was already in motion.
You're too late. Wormwood can't be stopped.
Frustrated by the mistake, Dexter discovered the chemicals for the deadly poison gas, prompting him to anonymously alert authorities to the yacht. Steve's death highlighted the far-reaching influence of Travis's delusions and Dexter's increasing desperation to stop them, bringing the fight against the Doomsday Killer into sharper focus. Beth Dorsey, also a delusional follower of Travis Marshall, was the next person Dexter killed, but this time in a professional capacity. Alongside her husband, Steve, Beth had embraced Travis's apocalyptic visions, becoming a critical pawn in his plan to unleash the poisonous wormwood attack on Miami Metro Homicide. Beth's journey towards destruction began with Travis tasking her to carry the deadly gas canister, disguised in a backpack, to the police department. With Angel Batista's stolen keycard, she bypassed security and nervously waited to meet Lieutenant Deborah Morgan, all while clinging to the belief that she was fulfilling a divine mission. However, Dexter, having connected the dots between Beth and Steve, recognized her as a threat just as she prepared to detonate the device. In a split-second decision, Dexter shoved Beth into the interrogation room, slamming the door shut to contain the gas. Trapped inside, Beth succumbed to her own weapon as the toxic fumes overwhelmed her. Dexter held the door, ensuring the deadly gas didn't spread, while ordering an evacuation. Beth's death marked the unraveling of Travis's wormwood plan and highlighted Dexter's quick thinking under immense pressure. Beth getting this close to causing catastrophic damage to Miami Metro really showed how good of a villain that Travis Marshall was. Almost everyone Dexter killed in Season 6 was a result of Travis in one way or another. And we see this again with Alberto, a Cuban smuggler who preyed on the desperate lives of those he transported. Alberto appeared to be a rescuer when his small cargo boat pulled a stranded Dexter from the ocean after Travis had left him there. However, his true intentions quickly surfaced. As the self-proclaimed captain of the vessel, Alberto turned on the very migrants he ferried, brandishing a gun and demanding valuables from the frightened passengers, including a pregnant woman. The tension escalated when Alberto threatened the woman with his weapon, pushing Dexter to make a decisive move. With no time for moral contemplation or his usual meticulous planning, Dexter grabbed a boat hook and drove it through Alberto's stomach, his anger and instinct for justice overriding his code. And once swift motion, he cast Alberto's lifeless body into the sea, restoring a fragile sense of safety among the passengers. Dexter took control of the vessel, guiding it towards the Miami shore, where the grateful passengers swarmed to freedom. While Alberto's death lacked Dexter's signature preparation, it did reveal his capacity for improvisation in the face of immediate danger, and it also set the stage for the final kill of Season 6. Dexter's final showdown with Travis Marshall, the Doomsday Killer, was absolute madness. Travis had carried out brutal murders based on the Book of Revelation. His ultimate plan, called the Lamb, was to sacrifice Dexter's son, Harrison, as part of his twisted vision of the apocalypse. The climax unfolded on top of Miami's Transcorp building during a solar eclipse. Travis, holding Harrison, was moments away from killing him with a ceremonial sword. Dexter arrived just in time, pretending to surrender by injecting himself with a tranquilizer to gain Travis's trust. Travis didn't realize that there was nothing in the syringe. When the moment was right, Dexter struck back, saving Harrison and capturing Travis. Dexter took Travis to the abandoned church where the killer had committed many of his crimes. There, he confronted Travis about using his faith to justify his evil acts.
I've known people who believed in God. They would never use their faith as a convenient excuse to kill 10 people.
Finally, Dexter ended his life with a single stab, but this victory came at a cost. Dexter's sister, Deborah, walked in just as he killed Travis. The moment that I think that everyone was waiting for the whole show. This shocking moment shattered the secrecy of Dexter's dark side and forever changed the relationship, forcing Deborah to grapple with the horrifying truth about her brother. It created a rift of mistrust and fear, leaving their once close bond hanging by a thread. Now, subscribe if you think that Season 6 was an underrated season. Victor Baskov, a high-ranking member of the Koshka Brotherhood, became entangled in Dexter's world after a violent incident that left a Miami detective dead. Victor's recklessness was evident when he murdered Detective Mike Anderson to cover up the killing of a stripper that he had bludgeoned to death. This impulsive act triggered a police investigation that threatened the Brotherhood's operations and placed Victor right in Dexter's crosshairs. Dexter, fueled by the need for justice and revenge for his colleague, tracked Victor to Miami International Airport, where he was planning to flee the country. As Victor prepared to board his flight, Dexter cornered him in a restroom, sedating him with a precise injection of M99. With clinical precision, Dexter wheeled the unconscious Victor into a baggage storage room, transforming it into a makeshift kill site. Bound to a table, Victor attempted to bargain for his life, offering money and power.
Is there anything I can do to keep you from killing me?
No.
Then get it over with!
Unmoved, Dexter explained the gravity of his crimes before bludgeoning him to death with a fire extinguisher. Victor's body was disposed of in the ocean, ensuring that no trace remained. Victor's actions had a major impact on Miami Metro, intensifying the investigation into Mike Anderson's murder. His death triggered a series of events that brought Isaac Serco into the picture, his lover and one of the show's most underrated characters. The next person Dexter killed was Ray Speltzer, infamously known as the Minotaur Slayer, and in my opinion, one of the best side villains of the show. Speltzer's sadistic rituals involve stalking women through a self-constructed maze while donning a horned helmet, a grotesque homage to his traumatic fixation on his mother. Dexter first identified Speltzer as a threat while trying to prove to Deborah the necessity of his dark acts. When the justice system failed to convict Speltzer, Dexter took matters into his own hands, leading to one of his closest brushes with death. Dexter's first attempt to kill Speltzer ended disastrously while setting up a kill room in Speltzer's RV. Dexter was ambushed and overpowered. He woke up trapped in Speltzer's warehouse maze, designed to disorient and terrify. Speltzer, wielding an axe and wearing a horned helmet, hunted Dexter through dark corridors and strobe-lit rooms filled with mannequins. Forced to flee, Dexter narrowly escaped by scaling rooftops and jumping onto a moving truck. Shaken but determined, Dexter later lured Speltzer to a graveyard, incapacitating him with a shovel and taking him to a crematorium.
Fuck! Fuck! Fuck!
Feels good.
There, he delivered a scathing monologue before driving a stake into Speltzer's heart and incinerating his body along with his second box of blood slides, marking a turning point in Dexter's methods. Speltzer's death also deepened the tension between Dexter and Deborah. While she was relieved that Speltzer was stopped, it forced her to confront her own moral boundaries, forever altering her relationship with her brother. In the complex web of the Koshka Brotherhood, Dexter crossed paths with a hitman sent by George Novikov to take out Isaac Serco. This encounter added another layer of danger to Dexter's already tense relationship with the Brotherhood. With Isaac having previously attempted to kill him, Dexter was forced to take the offensive to protect himself. Seeking to neutralize Isaac, Dexter broke into Victor Baskov's apartment, where Isaac had taken refuge, planning to stage Isaac's death and deflect suspicion onto a rival cartel. Inside the apartment, Dexter unexpectedly encountered the hitman, a rugged, sarcastic figure armed with a gun, leading to a very tense standoff.
I don't know who sent you here, but I'm not going halvesies.
As the two circled each other, it became clear that both men were after the same target. The hitman's overconfidence, however, left an opening for Dexter, who closed the distance with calculated precision and slashed his throat in a single swift motion. Isaac discovered the hitman's body later, deducing that his own brotherhood had sanctioned the hit. This betrayal deepened Isaac's resolve, escalating the war between him and Dexter, whilst also bringing them closer together. For Dexter, the kill not only eliminated an immediate threat, but also shifted the dynamics of his conflict with Isaac, intensifying the personal stakes in their deadly game. As Dexter's dealing with Isaac Serco deepened, he found himself entangled with other deadly members of the Koshka Brotherhood, including Oleg Michich, a ruthless sniper with at least 16 confirmed kills to his name. Tasked alongside Benjamin Caffrey to eliminate Isaac Serco, Oleg presented a significant challenge for Dexter Morgan, who was forced to intervene when Isaac kidnapped Hannah McKay. Dexter, driven by both obligation and fury, agreed to eliminate Oleg and his partner to secure Hannah's release. Dexter's meticulous research led him to a firing range where Oleg was testing a high-powered rifle in preparation for his kill. Oleg, lying prone and focused on his target, never noticed Dexter's calculated approach. Moving with predator-like precision, Dexter silently closed the distance and plunged a knife into Oleg's back, silencing him instantly. Dexter ensured that there were no traces linking him to the crime, while Isaac, informed of the successful kill, redirected Dexter's focus to Caffrey. Oleg's death marked a turning point, further entrenching Dexter in the violent web of the Koshka Brotherhood. I also wanted to say, don't you think that it's a bit unrealistic that Oleg made no sound when he was stabbed? I mean, I would have expected him to scream or something like that. Let me know what you think. The killing of Clint McKay marked one of Dexter's darkest moments, as he crossed the line by killing a completely innocent man. Clint, Hannah McKay's estranged father, was a manipulative and abusive figure who returned to her life under the guise of change. Known for gambling and cons, he quickly revealed his true motives, exploiting Hannah's love to pay off his debts. At first, Dexter approached Clint with caution, but as Clint's behavior escalated, from emotional manipulation to violent outbursts, Dexter became increasingly protective of Hannah. This situation spiraled out of control when a drunken Clint drove his truck into Hannah's greenhouse, destroying her work and leaving her devastated with cruel insults. As Hannah broke down, Dexter stepped in, his icy anger foreshadowing what was to come. When Clint later tried to blackmail Dexter, threatening to reveal secrets about Hannah, Dexter decided that Clint had gone too far. Luring Clint into a parking garage under the guise of paying him off, Dexter subdued him and clapped classic fashion. Clint awoken on Dexter's boat, wrapped in plastic, facing the terrifying realization of his fate.
You got the devil inside you, boy.
No, I think it's just me.
Pleas for mercies fell on deaf ears as Dexter coldly delivered justice, plunging a knife into Clint's chest. For Dexter, killing Clint was both personal and protective, a way to shield the woman he had loved from her tormentor. However, Clint's actions left lasting scars on Hannah, while also deepening her bond with Dexter, who showed that he would do anything to protect her. By killing Clint, an innocent man, Dexter gave us a glimpse of the monster that he could have become without Harry's code to guide him. The last person Dexter killed in Season 7 was Hector Estrada, the powerful drug kingpin responsible for the death of his mother. Estrada's involvement in the infamous shipping yard massacre, where Dexter and his brother Brian witnessed the brutal chainsaw murder of their mother, haunted Dexter's life and shaped his murderous code. For decades, Estrada remained out of reach, protected behind bars, until his unexpected release provided Dexter the opportunity for long-awaited vengeance. Dexter, using the alias Steve Gaskill, approached Estrada under the guise of a drug deal, luring the former crime lord to a shipping container on Christmas Eve. Estrada quickly realized the setup as he stepped into Dexter's meticulously prepared kill room, surrounded by plastic sheeting and tools of the trade. Though Estrada tried to resist, even pulling a concealed gun, Dexter disarmed and subdued him with ease. Confronted with a photograph of a 3-year-old Dexter sitting in a pool of blood, Estrada's bravado faltered, and he recognized his captor's true identity. However, before Dexter could deliver the fatal blow, Estrada revealed a critical piece of information. Captain Maria LaGuerta had orchestrated his release as part of her plan to expose Dexter as the Bay Harbor Butcher. This revelation complicated Dexter's plans, forcing him to release Estrada temporarily to avoid LaGuerta's trap. It wasn't until later, after tracking Estrada to a park, that Dexter sedated and returned him to the container for the ultimate reckoning. Estrada's final moments were filled with defiance, but Dexter's resolve was unshakable. He killed Estrada in cold fashion. Estrada's death marked the culmination of Dexter's lifelong vendetta, but also deepened his entanglement with LaGuerta's investigation. This pivotal kill set the stage for an even greater conflict, as Dexter's past and present converged in a deadly showdown. The next person is, oddly enough, no one. Or at least no one we know. I mean, we don't know their identity, why they were there, or anything about them. All we know is that they ended up in Dexter's kill room. Dexter killed Andrew Briggs by mistake, but his actions were driven by his love for his sister. Deborah, struggling with her guilt over killing Maria LaGuerta, had taken a job as a private investigator and infiltrated Briggs' life under the guise of helping him sell stolen jewelry. However, her growing emotional instability led her to blur the lines between her assignment and her personal life, indulging in drugs and a relationship with the criminal. Dexter, concerned for Deborah's safety, tracked her to the motel and discovered her entanglement with Briggs. A heated confrontation ensued, with Dexter insisting that Deb leave, only for Briggs to intervene. Tensions exploded when Briggs attempted to intimidate Dexter, forcing him into a violent struggle.
Asshole, take your hands off her.
In the cramped motel room, Briggs reached for a knife, but Dexter acted faster, turning the weapon against him and fatally stabbing the fugitive in the chest. Deborah, watching in horror, accused Dexter of dragging her deeper into chaos. This again left Deborah emotionally shattered, refusing Dexter's offer to cover up the murder and instead calling the police. While Briggs' death resolved a potential threat, it further fractured the already fragile relationship between Dexter and Deborah, pushing her closer to the brink. This kill, while necessary in Dexter's mind, became another crack in the foundation of his crumbling world. As Dexter tried to identify the brain surgeon in Season 8, he ended up finding and killing another serial killer. Ron Guzo, a seemingly unassuming salesman working at a fitness kiosk in a mall, was anything but ordinary. Behind his mundane job and awkward demeanor laid a sinister secret. Guzo was a cannibal who preyed on his victims, meticulously butchering their bodies and consuming their flesh. Dexter first crossed paths with Guzo while investigating suspects linked to the brain surgeon case. Although Guzo was initially considered a possible culprit, Dexter quickly discovered that his depravity lay in a completely different direction. Dexter's suspicions grew during their initial encounter, where Guzo forced friendliness and denial of knowing Dr. Vogel raised flags. A visit to Guzo's home cemented Dexter's belief in his guilt. The kitchen, unnaturally clean compared to the rest of the house, revealed the macabre truth. A slow cooker simmered with human fingers, while the fridge contained neatly labeled containers of human organs, including a brain marinating in garlic sauce. Guzo's atrocities were undeniable. Setting up a kill room in Guzo's own kitchen, Dexter confronted the cannibal, reflecting on their dark parallels.
But now I realize I'm just like you. I consume everyone I love.
With those words, Dexter plunged the knife into Guzo's chest, ensuring he would never kill or eat another victim. While Galuso's death removed a dangerous predator from society, it served as a chilling reminder of Dexter's ongoing struggle with his own dark nature, deepening his internal conflict. I think that Dexter admitting that he destroys everyone's life around him is the most honest thing he says in the entire show. If you agree with me, subscribe. I promise this will be the last time I'll ask you. Killing AJ Yates was yet again another sadistic killer that Dexter found in his hunt for the brain surgeon. A cable technician with a disturbing obsession for breaking toes and burying women beneath rose bushes, Yates gained attention due to his sinister past. He had been a patient of Dr. Evelyn Vogel, who once treated him for violent tendencies stemming from childhood abuse. Yates' scarred head and twisted methods, kidnapping, torturing, and killing women, cemented him as a threat worthy of Dexter's attention. The hunt for Yates intensified when he kidnapped Dr. Vogel, blaming her for his suffering and threatening her life. Dexter, accompanied by his estranged sister Deborah, raced to locate him using a desperate phone trace. The tension mounted as Vogel, bound and helpless, tried to manipulate Yates' fragile psyche, while he prepared to relive his childhood trauma by hiding under a bed. Dexter's arrival turned the game, with Yates waiting to ambush Deborah from his hiding spot. Sensing the danger, Dexter grabbed a curtain rod and drove it through the bed, fatally impaling Yates in a single calculated strike. Together, they disposed of Yates' body at sea, a rare act that brought Deb, Dexter, and Vogel together. It was really weird, a family okay with killing. Whilst they were relieved that they were all okay, that relief was temporary as the brain surgeon continued terrorizing them and the citizens of Miami, which brings me perfectly onto the penultimate kill of Season 8. Oliver Saxon, also known as the Brain Surgeon, was one of Dexter Morgan's most personal and devastating adversaries. A true psychopath completely devoid of empathy, Saxon's reign of terror was marked by surgical precision. Literally. He killed his victims with a chilling detachment, removing portions of their brain to send cryptic messages to his estranged mother, Dr. Evelyn Vogel. Though initially believed to be another in a string of anonymous serial killers, Saxon's identity and connection to Vogel added layers of complexity to his menace. He wasn't just another killer, he was Vogel's son, a fact that fractured the trust between her and Dexter. The rivalry escalated as Saxon murdered Vogel in a calculated act of revenge, slicing her throat while Dexter looked on, helpless. This brutal act marked a turning point, fueling Dexter's determination to end Saxon's life. Their final confrontation began when Saxon was arrested after a failed attempt to kill Deborah Morgan in a hospital. Deborah, already critically injured by Saxon, was left in a vegetative state after complications from surgery, further cementing Dexter's resolve. Dexter confronted Saxon in a holding cell under the pretense of collecting evidence. With a security camera rolling, Dexter provoked Saxon into attacking him by strategically placing a pen on the table.
No, I'm here to kill you with that pen.
As Saxon lunged, Dexter turned the tables, stabbing him in the neck with the pen in absolute brutality. Saxon bled out on the floor, smirking until his final breath, his death captured on tape as a justified killing. Dexter was cleared of any wrongdoing. I mean, it was obviously self-defense, right? Saxon's death, however, came too late to save Deborah, who was left in a vegetative state, which brings me onto the final kill of Season 8. Deborah Morgan's final moments were a haunting culmination of the complex sibling relationship that had defined much of Dexter Morgan's life. Deborah, a determined detective and the moral backbone of Miami Metro Homicide, always fought for justice, even after discovering her brother's dark secret. Her tragic story took a devastating turn when she was critically injured by Oliver Saxon. Complications during surgery left her in a vegetative state, sealing her fate and marking the end of a relentless pursuit of justice. As a hurricane loomed over Miami, Dexter made a heartbreaking decision. Guilt-ridden and consumed by love for his sister, he chose to spare her a life of suffering and nothingness. In the empty hospital room, he whispered his love for her and turned off her life support, ending her life. What happened afterwards was surreal. Dexter carried her lifeless body to his boat, and in an unprecedented act of grief, he laid her to rest at sea, mirroring the ritual that he had reserved for his victims. Her death marked a breaking point for Dexter, prompting his decision to fake his death and exile himself. Deborah's loss left a profound void, her absence symbolized by the collapse of Dexter's life, a tragic end to a character who had always walked the line between justice and familial loyalty. I mean, I was personally upset that Deb died. She was easily the second best character in the show. Now, as I move on to the final 6 kills of this video, I want to warn you that if you have not watched Dexter New Blood, please click out the video. I would hate to ruin anything for you if you haven't watched it yet. Anyways, with that being said, let's resume. The first person Dexter killed in New Blood was Matt Caldwell, whose arrogance and recklessness brought back Dexter's dark passenger after nearly 10 years. Matt Caldwell, the spoiled and entitled son of Kurt Caldwell, strutted into Dexter's quiet life in Iron Lake like he owned it. Known for his obnoxious behavior and lack of accountability, Matt had a history of of reckless actions, including causing a boat crash that killed 5 people. His lack of remorse and brazen disregard for life marked him as a danger to those around him. Matt's fate was sealed during a hunting trip when he callously shot a white buck that Dexter had grown attached to, the blood splattering onto Dexter's face. The act was more than a trigger, it was a violation of the order that Dexter had imposed on his new life. Overwhelmed by emotion and the resurgence of his urges, Dexter knocked Matt unconscious and prepared a kill room, a practice that he hadn't revisited in years. Dexter confronted Matt about his crimes, demanding accountability. Despite Matt's pleas and excuses, Dexter delivered his signature brand of justice, plunging a knife into Matt's chest. It was a calculated, almost ritualistic act, marking Dexter's grim return. The events that followed forced Dexter to confront the gravity of his actions as he dismembered Matt's body and incinerated the remains to hide the evidence. This long-awaited return to killing not only reawakened his dark impulses, but also triggered a series of events that began to unravel the fragile life that he had created. It was a stark reminder that no matter how far he tried to escape, Dexter's darkness was always a part of him. The next person on this list is Jasper Hodge, a reckless drug dealer whose careless actions made him responsible for 18 deaths and, most crucially, nearly cost Dexter's son, Harrison, his life. Jasper was a small-time drug producer with a deadly reputation. Manufacturing fentanyl-laced pills in his dilapidated attic, he showed no regard for the lives lost due to his negligence. His callousness came to Dexter's attention when Harrison overdosed on Jasper's pills at a party, leaving Dexter grappling with rage and guilt. Determined to hold Jasper accountable, Dexter tracked him to his Moose Creek residence. Breaking into the cluttered, grimy house, Dexter incapacitated Jasper with a syringe of ketamine. When Jasper awoke in Dexter's makeshift kill room, Dexter forced him to confront the photos of those who had died from his tainted drugs. Jasper refused to take responsibility, callously blaming his victims' addictions. When Jasper insulted Dexter's parenting, Dexter's fury boiled over. However, as Dexter prepared to exact his brand of justice, a car outside interrupted him. Adapting quickly, Dexter changed his method. Instead of using his knife, he forced Jasper to ingest his work, leaving the scene staged as an overdose. The police later discovered Jasper's lifeless body slumped in his chair, unaware of Dexter's involvement. Jasper's death was a pivotal moment as it brought Dexter's actions closer to discovery. With Angela beginning to connect the dots to the Bay Harbor Butcher, this kill symbolized Dexter's inability to separate vengeance from his code, a misstep that pushed him further into danger. Elric Kane, Kurt Caldwell's loyal henchman, met his end at Dexter's hand, a kill driven by sheer desperation. Kane's unwavering loyalty to Kurt ultimately sealed his fate. Elric was a truck driver and fixer for Kurt, tasked with handling sensitive and often violent matters. His involvement with Dexter began when Kurt ordered him to eliminate Dexter, believing him to be a threat. Elric's mission became personal when he ambushed Dexter, knocking him unconscious and dragging him into the backseat of his car. When Dexter regained consciousness en route to his intended execution, he quickly turned the tables. Crashing the car in a desperate escape attempt, Dexter fled into the snowy woods with Elric in hot pursuit. The chase led to a tense showdown at an abandoned summer camp where Dexter lured Elric into a trap. Exploiting the environment and his survival instincts, Dexter ambushed Elric, holding a knife to his throat. Elric's final moments were filled with fear as Dexter extracted information about Harrison's whereabouts before delivering the fatal blow. After killing Elric, Dexter concealed the body and used his phone to trick Kurt into thinking everything was proceeding as planned. This act intensified the stakes as Dexter's efforts to shield Harrison and stay under the radar only fueled Kurt's determination for revenge. I want to say that this brings me perfectly onto the kill of Kurt, but first we must remember Wiggles the Clown. Wiggles the Clown, a sinister predator whose unsettling double life led him into Dexter Morgan's crosshair, was a children's entertainer who we see in flashbacks. Behind the painted smile, he harbored a dark secret. He preyed on children, taking their lives and photographing them dressed as clowns. Dexter's discovery of Wiggles' hidden stash of macabre trophies solidified his place on the kill table. Driven by his code, Dexter meticulously planned his next move. Under the cover of darkness, Dexter infiltrated the playland, transforming it into a chilling kill room. Eventually, Wiggles was captured and awoke to find himself restrained on a slide, surrounded by carousel-like photographs of his victims distorted by funhouse mirrors. As he struggled, Dexter confronted him, exposing the heinous acts that had led to his capture. Wiggles' desperate pleas for mercy were ignored as Dexter took his life. His death spared future victims and served as a grim reminder of Dexter's unwavering mission to eliminate predators. Kurt Caldwell, one of the show's most chilling villains, left a lasting impact as the runaway killer, ultimately becoming the 68th person that Dexter kills on screen. A respected member of the Iron Lake community, Kurt secretly lured runaway girls to his underground bunker, where he would imprison them, manipulate them, and ultimately shoot them as they tried to flee. By the time that Dexter discovered his crimes, Kurt had preserved 30 victims as trophies, including Molly Park, a true crime podcaster investigating him. The rivalries between Dexter and Kurt intensified after Kurt discovered that Dexter had killed his son, Matt Caldwell. This led to a dangerous game of cat and mouse, culminating in Kurt targeting Dexter's son Harrison as revenge. Dexter and Harrison worked together to uncover Kurt's hidden bunker, finding his macabre collection of embalmed victims. The discovery horrified Harrison, but it also reinforced the need to stop Kurt. In a chilling climax, Dexter and Harrison confronted Kurt in his own bunker. With Kurt bound to the same table he used for his victims, Dexter exposed his crimes and motives, dismissing Kurt's twisted justifications of saving runaways. After silencing Kurt with a knife to the chest, Dexter dismembered his body, while a disturbed but resolute Harrison watched. Kurt's death brought immediate relief, but it also marked a turning point in Dexter and Harrison's relationship. The experience bonded them as father and son, but it forced Harrison to confront the reality of his father's dark code. I found this really funny personally. I mean, most families give presents, eat mince pies, but Dexter and his son decide to spend it chopping up a body in a bunker. Long term, Kurt's actions exposed Dexter to Angela Bishop's suspicions, setting the stage for the explosive finale of Dexter New Blood, which I think was really good, by the way, although I do know that some people were disappointed. Sergeant Logan, one of the most morally grounded and likable characters in the show, met a tragic and shocking end at the hands of Dexter. Logan, a respected police officer and high school wrestling coach, was known for his kindness and commitment to protecting Iron Lake. His role in Dexter's eventual capture highlighted his sharp instincts and unwavering dedication to justice. The tension leading to Logan's death began when Dexter was arrested for Matt Caldwell's murder, with mounting evidence tying him to the Bay Harbor Butcher killings. Locked in a jail cell and facing extradition to Florida, where the death penalty awaited, Dexter realized that he needed to escape. Logan, unaware of the danger, brought Dexter a bottle of water when asked, unknowingly setting the stage for the grim confrontation. As Logan approached the cell, Dexter seized the opportunity, violently slamming him into the bars and placing him in a chokehold. Despite Dexter's plea to hand over the keys, Logan attempted to draw his weapon. In an instant, Dexter snapped his neck, killing the man who had trusted him. The fallout from Logan's death was catastrophic, as Dexter abandoned the scene, leaving his actions to speak for themselves. Taking an innocent life shattered the principles of the code, revealing the full extent of the destruction caused by his dark passenger. This moment became a turning point for Harrison, who saw the irreparable harm Dexter's choices had inflicted on others and himself. In a parallel to the series' opening episode, the final chapter saw Harrison confront and kill his father, bringing Dexter's destructive journey to an ultimate end. That is every single person that Dexter Morgan killed. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video about every person that Deb killed.